This is Atomic Shinobi, and today I'm going to narrate second part of What If Naruto is protected by Fem-Kyuubi because of 700 years oath. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
1300 hours Haruno Reseidensea Happy Ichigo continued walking up to the Haruno home, which was one floor below their import-export store. To make sure he had the correct address this time, he paused and glanced at the entrance. A few blocks away, he assumed he had reached his destination and walked right into an elderly woman who believed he was her grandson. He stayed for an hour talking to the elderly woman, avoiding questions and drinking some very bitter tea, not really wanting to offend her. After finishing, he fled and eventually arrived at the store, entering through the door. Takeo Haruno almost ran over to have a look at the new customer who had just entered his store when he heard the doorbells. His tone was friendly as he said, "Hello there, see anything you like?" The tall Junin answered, I'm here to see the parents of Miss Sakura Haruno. I'm her father, Takeo. Is she needed by anyone or late for a team meeting, perchance? Oh, no, nothing of that sort, sir. You see, her team's previous sensei was let go, and I was assigned to take over. Hokage Sama recommended that I come and have a sort for parent-teacher meeting with you, so here I am. The name is Ichigo Suzumiya, he cheerfully told the much shorter man. Given how tall the younger man was, he said, "Well, you certainly are a lot friendlier than her last sensei, not mention taller, too. By the way, why has Kakashi been replaced, if you are at liberty to say?" Hokage Sama has given me no orders to the contrary, so I'll elaborate. In order to stop Antoni from rushing in off the streets, Takeo used that as a signal to post the closed sign. Sakura heard conversation coming from her father's shop as he recounted the events of the mission. Curiosity compelled her to listen in after she noticed that it was her new sensei. She heard her father sadly shaking his head as he spoke phrases like, ignorant villagers, foolish Hitaki, and Yondaimi's legacy. So, Kakashi proved that he was no different than the rest of the petty villagers. Such a shame. Naruto's such a nice boy. You know, my wife Sanae and I wanted to adopt him the night of the attack, but the council and the Uchiha blocked us from doing so. Almost the entire Shinobi clan council tried their hand, just to fail as we did. He was thrown into the orphanage as soon as he could walk, and practically forgotten. If the Yondaime were to see what happened to him, he would be ashamed of this village. Takeo responded with sadness. I agree with you. I started out as his next-door neighbor and he saw me training one day. I asked him if he wanted to join me and he looked to ask if I gave him the world on a platter. I'll never forget the look of pleading in his eyes. That is something no child should have, especially one so young. What they were saying baffled inner Sakura. What connection would Naruto have to the Yondaime? When he was young, my parents attempted to adopt him, but the Uchiha and council prohibited it. My little brother might have been Naruto-kun. Those jerks. She screamed while in her host's unconscious state. For once, the fan girl had nothing offensive or scathing to say about the boy. Although she was terrified of Ichigo and Naruto, she was even more terrified of IS lately. Since they returned from the battle at the bridge on the wave mission, the fangirl side of her personality has been gradually losing its clout because it is no longer justified. IS was becoming more powerful, and FG would soon follow. Fangirl was either completely repressed or completely absent. She made the decision to hear what her new sensei thought of her for a little while longer. Sanae emerged from the store's back room to find out who their visitor was after hearing the conversation as well. Sakura returned the greeting when Ichigo introduced himself as her new Junin sensei. Hello, Ichigo-san. I am Sanae Haruno, Sakura's mother. I understand that you became her team's sensei only today, is that correct? Hi. He confirmed courteously that it is, Haruno-san. He was so formal that Sanae laughed at it. Just call me Sanae, Ichigo-kun. You really are much nicer and more polite than her last sensei. He came here with Hokage Sama to get a feel for how she lived, but he didn't seem very interested and even had the nerve to read that smut book in my house. He was mumbling something about the Uchiha being the only one he was interested in. She stopped and resumed her conversation. She kindly told him, if you will come with me, I will show you to her room. He was escorted up the stairs to Sakura's loft, then into the house section of the store and up yet another set of stairs. The amount of pink in the room, along with the candid photos of the emo prince that she was so obsessed with, almost blindsided him when he opened the door. This is almost like a house of horrors, I must say. As he carried out his small examination, he remarked to himself, her obsession with the Uchiha brat is going to get her killed one day. Sanae saw that he rolled his eyes at every picture of Sasuke in the room and realized why. I wish that she would drop that obsession with that ghastly Uchiha boy. He and his clan, minus his mother, God rest her soul, have given us nothing but grief and hardships. Really, I'm not too fond of the kid either, but if I may ask, what happened? It's an honest enough question. A few years ago, 1 year after the Uchiha massacre, Sasuke Uchiha came into our store. He was already becoming spoiled beyond imagining. Almost all the other merchants and shop owners gave him insane discounts, but Takeo and I do not believe that he had earned them. When he came, he demanded the same treatment, but my husband told him otherwise. The boy went to the council and filed a grievance against us, to which followed many listing our small business within the village. If it weren't for the others on the Shinobi Council and for Naruto, our family would have been out on the streets. Really? How does Naruto factor into all of this? He came to our store a year before that, trying to buy a bed. He told us that all of the other stores chased him out or would sell him junk at outrageously high prices. When we asked why he didn't have one, he told us that some people broke into his room and destroyed most of his belongings and took most of his money that he had saved. What he had in his hands was all he had left. Sanae told him prior to needing a moment to rest her eyes before she could continue. When Takeo and I saw that, it took all the resolve we had not to break into tears on the spot. We told him we could give him the bed for free, but he insisted on paying for it. Takeo and I arranged for him to help out in the store part, time to earn it, which he agreed to wholeheartedly. He was such a sweetheart and a hard, diligent worker. We were amazed by the drive the boy had, as well as a knack for quick thinking. After a year had passed, his birthday came around again. He received the worst beating he had ever endured in his life that night. When I went to visit him, he pleaded with me to leave and not to be seen with him, or they would do the same to me and my family. After that, he simply vanished. When the Uchiha boy did what he did, the Shinobi clans helped us because we helped Naruto. The only things we heard of him were the same vile and nasty rumors that always surrounded the poor boy. Now, he surfaces on my daughter's team, but we still can't seem to find him anywhere. Ichigo accepted everything the woman had said at face value. She truly cared about Naruto and had no motive to lie to him. He reassured her, "I'll see if I can bring him by to at least say hello." "Please do." "Oh, would you like to stay for dinner?" "It's no trouble, I assure you." She asked. She would feel more at ease having her daughter study under him because he seemed like a good young man. Ichigo looked at a wristwatch he wore. He accidentally let the last sentence out. "As tempting as it is, I must decline. I have prior arrangements. Like my first date." The woman's eyes glistened with laughter. "Oh my, your first date? Surely, such a handsome young man like yourself would have plenty of young ladies willing to spend a night on the town with you." "Ah, heh. It isn't my first ever, just, in a long time. I had another, but he became quiet." She said softly, "I guess that's a sore subject. She's no longer with us, I take it." And he gave her a somber nod. She embraced the grown man as if he were a mother. "It's good that you're trying again. You're a strong young man, Ichigo-kun, and I know you'll be a wonderful sensei." "Thanks. I'd better get going, now." Yamanaka-san said he had something to talk with me about. "By the way, did you know that Naruto had the biggest crush on your daughter?" he informed her. Sanae nodded and let out a long sigh. "Yes, we knew about and tried to get her to at least be civil to him, but she's been stubborn on that front." "I thought as much. Well, it seems as thought he has a new crush now, one that's interested in him for a change. You know of Hinata Hyuga?" Sanae let out a gasp. The woman smiled with joy, saying, "The Hyuga heiress? She likes Naruto-chan, how good for him." Both Ichigo and the older woman were perplexed by her lack of sadness over the death of her daughter. Sakura has had years to notice that boy, but she couldn't see past the Uchiha and her obsessive ways. That poor boy deserves to move on for her, and I'm glad that Lady Hinata has taken such a shine to him. She is a very kind-hearted girl and she will be good for him and help him in ways that no one else could, she argued. Ichigo told her that he truly needed to get going after taking her words at face value. After saying his goodbyes, he disappeared in a tiny water cyclone from their front stoop. Takeo remarked, "He seems like such a pleasant young man, very polite, too." "Yes, he does. I do hope that he bring Naruto-kun around soon. I want to see how he's grown over the past few years. I'm so glad that he found a little sweetheart. I guess our little girl missed out on a great opportunity." Sanae continued. To properly end the day, the two simply returned to the store. Before her parents locked up, Sakura stealthily left the store. The only person that sprang to mind was Ino, but she really needed to talk to someone about what was happening. She headed to the flower shop in Yamanaka with that in mind. 1413 hours Yamanaka Flower Shop. Sakura said, Ino, do you have a few minutes? To her former best friend. Ino was taken aback. She believed Sakura would have referred to her as Ino.pig. There must be a problem, she knew. What's wrong, Sakura? Sakura went on to share all of her concerns with Ino. Regarding the wave mission, her uncertainties and anxieties, and the knowledge she gained about Naruto and her new sensei. That's pretty messed up. He couldn't have done anything wrong, he was only a baby. What the hell is wrong with the council and the Uchiha, and what did they have against Naruto? Ino gasped. I don't know, but it might have something to do with what happened to Naruto on our mission, Sakura responded. Really? Like what? Well, the night before that Zabuza person attacked the bridge, he was sleeping on the roof, like he did every night we were there, because he didn't trust Kakashi Sensei or Sasuke. We felt something powerful and oppressive coming from the roof and we went to check on it. When we got up there, he was thrashing around, screaming like he was in pain while a red aura surrounded him, like he was trapped in a nightmare. He finally stopped thrashing and screaming, just to sob openly, moaning out for someone to stop hurting him and that he wasn't a monster, that he didn't hurt anybody. Sakura had to stop for a moment to catch her breath and swallow some tears that were brewing. Seeing someone in such pain and knowing that there was nothing she could do to alleviate it was extremely upsetting. Kakashi Sensei was acting weird and overly harsh where Naruto was concerned since we became a team, but when that red chakra came out, he was frightened and ready to attack him, maybe kill him. What? What kind of sensei does that to a student? This one, apparently. Anyway, what happened next was strange but kind of beautiful, too. Suddenly, this ghost or something appeared next to him and pulled his head into her lap, and sang to him like he was her child. Her song was so beautiful and it calmed him down. But the strange thing about her was that she had ears like a fox and 9 tails, but she was gorgeous. She called him her kid and kissed him on his forehead before she disappeared. She also mentioned that the village caused his nightmares somehow. Kakashi Sensei seemed more angry than scared after it was all over. I asked him about what happened and he said that Naruto was the only one who could tell me, but he doubted that he'd tell anyone willingly. The next day on the bridge, I felt the same thing again and I knew that it was coming from Naruto. Ino said abruptly, wait, you said 9 tails, right? Yeah, why? People referred to him as a demon despite his red chakra, fox ears, and 9 tails. Ino pondered until she reached a decision. Oh my god, it's Naruto. My dad once told my mother about a Jinchuriki, or demon vessel, that lived in the village and was my age. He is the vessel of the devil. He's a really nice guy, though. Nice guy, but a little silly at times. After all, Naruto is Naruto, she said. What's up, Ino? In an attempt to shift the conversation, Ino told the pinkhead, it's nothing. About Ichigo. Sensei, you are very lucky to have him assigned as your sensei. She was drawn to the fresh details about the new sensei. Really? How so? Ino described to her how Ichigo saved her from herself and how he assisted her team by providing them with extensive taijutsu training. You know how I used to diet all the time. She continued after Sakura nodded. Well, he found that my constant dieting was hurting me, making me weaker and weaker over time. I went to a doctor and she told me that it would have killed me eventually through malnutrition. He talked with me about Sasuke, my reason for dieting, and he asked me what kind of boy I liked. I told him that my type would be kind, funny, smile a lot, and like a girl for who she really is, warts and all. Sakura gave a dreamy hum. That sounds like a great guy to have. Although Ino nodded, she wasn't done. He nodded his head, but then he asked me something that changed the way I look at people. He asked me which of those qualities Sasuke embodied. I went totally silent, I didn't have a response. He escorted me home and I watched Sasuke for a week. What I saw was a huge disappointment. He was always rude, snobby and glared at everyone. Sakura was shocked, to put it mildly. One of Sasuke's most devoted fangirls was Ino. Really? I'm not joking. He was awful, Sakura. But following the same methods, I looked to the people around me for the same qualities and found them in my teammates, Sensei, Ichigo.san, and Naruto.kun. With a hint of disbelief, she said, wait, Naruto what? Let me finish. Shikamaru and Choji aren't perfect, but I could have had far worse for teammates. At least they're considerate of how I feel and listen to me and that counts for a lot. But Naruto.kun and Ichigo Sensei, they meet those standards and much more. Sakura fell silent. Ino, who had her pick of the best as Miss Popularity at the academy, felt that Naruto, of all people, was the most deserving of her love. I saw Naruto.kun come over to my house one day, and I asked my dad what he wanted. He told me that he was there for a scheduled counseling session. Dad told me that he's been going to him for counseling for years, but when I asked him what could have happened, he said that only Naruto or the Hokage could tell me without severe punishment. I've been meaning to ask him, but I could never find him. Then, I heard that your team left on that mission out of the village, but you guys are back now. Hey, do you know where he is? Ino inquired. Sakura paused to reflect. Well, Naruto, Haku, and Ichigo Sensei all went for ramen at Ichiraku's after the debriefing, but after that, I don't know. I don't even know where he lives, she admitted with shame. Ino let out a sigh. I also wanted to apologize and have a conversation with him. Well, at least he's back. I will eventually encounter him. Once more shifting the topic, she said, oh well. You doing anything later today? As Ino made her rounds down in the shop, Ichigo entered the front door, and the two ended up conversing for a while. He yelled, Inoichi, you here? Akari called back from the back of the counter. The blonde woman thrust a bouquet of daisies into his hands and said, Ichigo-kun, over here. I have the perfect flowers for your date with Anko-chan. He was wearing his Junin uniform at the time, so she asked, wait, you're not going dressed like that, are you? No. Lord no. She pressed for answers, raising an eyebrow and asking, then what will you wear? Damn. He lowered his head without victory. Like fire alarms, Akari's maternal instincts were blaring. I'll just have to take you shopping for clothes. When is the date? In a defeated tone, he informed her, at 6 tonight at Dagashia's. She called her daughter and said, okay. I trust you've drawn your mission and bounty pay. The older blonde woman almost squealed with excitement as she exclaimed, Ino dear. Come on, we're going to give Ichigo-kun a new look. It was similar to dressing up as an older son or nephew. Ooh. Can Sakura come, too? She yelled, sure, the more the merrier, so let's go, and started to drag the unfortunate young man out the door. Sakura remained motionless. Concerned, Akari said to the girl with the pink hair, aren't you coming, dear? Weakly, she said, I'd better get home, Akari-san. I'll think'll pass, and left. To her friend who had previously been her rival, Ino called back, okay, then. I'll see you around, then. Inoichi looked on pityingly. He is being used as a human dress. Updoll by not one but two women. No, not this time for him. Thank you, just his wife and daughter were sufficient. Inner Sakura lost control while traveling home and had to return to her usual waiting spot. Sakura felt tears streaming down her cheeks and a sharp stab in her heart as her normal FA section aide took over once more. She had no idea why she was so depressed or what she was doing close to Ino's house. IS was inside, sobbing uncontrollably. You idiot, she yelled despairingly at her host. When FG asked her other persona, what's your problem? Shut up you stupid bitch. Naruto-kun is taken now. We had all the time in the world to make him happy in return for all he tried to do for us. We could have had someone who cared for us, but just had to follow that emo asshole around like a bitch in heat. You ruined everything. If we weren't a part of the same person, I'd kill you. So what? He's only the doby, no one to get worked up about. IS growled in anger and made the decision to share with her partner what she had discovered about Naruto and Sasuke over the previous 2 hours. It was a very surprising event. Instead of being shocked, IS expected her other half to brush it off. She exhaled without moving, saying, after all of that, he still liked us, but now, he's with Hinata and he's happy. She choked, lowering herself to her knees both inside and out. Sasuke-kun is a horrible person. Nearly put my family on the street. Naruto tried to help us, but I was so nasty to him. Sakura started crying into her hands over the loss of what could have been hers, whispering, I'm such a cruel bitch. I.S. snarled as she grabbed FG by the collar of her shirt and said, now you listen ME. We are going to apologize to Naruto-kun and be his friend if nothing else. You will not screw this up and I will not let you hurt him anymore. If you do, so help me God, I'll kill you. I don't care if I'll die too. Now, we will go home and think of a way to apologize to him and throw away all of those pictures of that bastard Sasuke. Sakura got up and continued to sniffle all the way back to her house. 15:25 hours Konoha Merchant District. Ichigo was taken by Akari and Ino to the same store where she had Inoichi purchase his more formal, casual attire. As soon as he entered, she started choosing clothes almost immediately and led him to a dressing room where he was asked to try on various outfits and pairs while the Ino served as a panel of judges. When they heard a familiar voice, they turned to face the entrance. Ah, Haku-ne. Do I have to dress up? Then a quiet voice interrupted. Yes, Otuto-kun, you do. Come on, I'll help you pick something out. As Ino scanned a clothes rack, she noticed Naruto with a stunning girl she had never seen before, and she scolded him. She called out to him, "Hey, Naruto." "Oh no, is she his girlfriend?" She pondered. "Who's your friend?" He exclaimed with joy, "Oh, this is Haku, Ni-chan," as he described how she returned with them and how she ended up becoming his big sister. Ino exhaled a sigh of comfort. All right, she's not his girlfriend, she's his Oni-chan. What are they doing here, though? As Sakura and her mother appeared, she pondered. "Naruto-chan, how good to see you," she exclaimed, giving him a tight embrace. She said to him, "What are you up to, young man?" Although Ino was unaware of how well her mother knew Naruto, she assumed that since he was seeing her dad for therapy, her mother would also attempt to mother him. He said sheepishly, "Well, Akari-san, I kinda, got a date tonight." She squealed like a girl, and he heard Ichigo from behind the curtain in the dressing room. "Really? Hinata agreed to a date without fainting? Miracles do happen?" He said jokingly. "Actually, she asked Emmy out and her dad approved. Pretty crazy, huh?" The two women responded to his declaration in different ways. After apologizing to Naruto, Ino wanted to try her hand at him because she was a little envious. The fact that the lonely boy had at last found a girl who was interested in him rather than the Uchiha made Akari very happy. Akari squeezed the young blonde Jinchuriki and exclaimed, "Hinata Hyuga? Wow, she's a real cutie pie and very sweet girl. Good for you, Naru-chan. People should know he is a good boy if Hiyashi Hyuga, of all people, thought well of him. Well done, he." Since Naruto deserved someone who liked him right away, Ino forced herself to swallow her jealousy. As she pulled him into an embrace, she said candidly, "Congratulations, Naruto. I hope that you two will be happy together." He asked her, a little defensive, Ino, thanks, but I thought you couldn't stand me. What's up?" Akari let out a sigh, but she couldn't hold Naruto responsible for being cautious because of everything that had happened to him in the past. Ino continued by outlining her recent months of introspection, as well as the realizations and adjustments she had made. She fidgeted shyly as she explained the last part, saying, "I've come to the conclusion that I didn't like who I'd become. I thought that I'd start by apologizing to you and seeing where things went from there. In addition, she said in her mind, I know that you have a demon that almost destroyed the village sealed inside of you, but I don't care." Sake was grinning knowingly as she listened to the story. This girl is also attracted to the boy. She isn't even making an effort to conceal them. She told her vessel, "Naru-chan, I can tell that she's being completely honest with you." "Thanks, Sake-chan. It's just a little weird, you know. For the longest time, she hated me and now she comes up to me and apologizes out of nowhere. To top that off, she's acting a little Hinata used to around me. Wait a minute. She likes me? I thought that she liked the Teme?" He gasped with delight. From what she said, she woke up and saw that brat for what he really is, a self-centered, spoiled little punk. She looked around and apparently found what she liked in you. "Your luck is really changing, finding out two cute girls like you in the same day." She laughed at him. But Naruto didn't think it was very funny. He thought frantically, "What'll I do? I'm dating Hina-chan, but Ino-chan likes me, too." Sake paused to reflect. As her presence waned, the vixen told him, "Maybe Hina-chan would share you with her? Whatever you tell her, be gentle. Don't break her heart." He smiled slightly but tenderly at the blonde girl. He gave her a hug in return, saying, "Thanks, Ino-chan. It feels good to hear you say that. I'd be more than happy to be your friend." They were able to get back on track after Akari reminded them of the time. The group made the decision to combine their thoughts about the two blonde men they dressed up, and the outcome was quite positive. Both blondes were a little jealous of the girls they went on dates with that evening and cleaned up really well. They both wore matching sport coats and khaki slacks with white button-up shirts. Haku had to concede that Naruto would be a true charmer when he grew up and that her new foster parent looked pretty nice all dolled up and groomed. Akari even used copious amounts of pomade to get Naruto's normally unruly hair to behave. In order to give the boy a corsage made of the flower of his choosing, she asked him to stop by the store on his way to pick up Hinata. To match her eyes, he selected a lavender flower. They parted ways after paying for the clothes and finishing everything. Naturally, Haku, Ichigo, and Naruto left together to return to the apartments. Haku explained that Mrs. Yamanaka had offered her a part-time job if she wanted one. Naruto and Ichigo parted ways and started preparing for their dates. You know, the whole funking thing that comes before a date, including taking a shower and, in Ichigo's case, shaving. Before they departed for the evening, Haku took to fussing over the two of them and making one last check. Given what she knew about the village from Naruto's and Ichigo's stories, the older girl thought Naruto might need some help, so she started to follow him around and put an end to trouble before it started. About the same time as Anko and Hinata, let's check in on Anko and Hinata for the time being. After all, they also need to prepare. Kurenai filled the void left by Anko's lack of taste for the typical date and Hinata's lack of any other older female role models. After taking the two to one of her favorite shops, she had them fitted for dresses that fit them well. A honey brown evening gown that complemented Anko's eyes was presented to her. Although it featured a slightly conservative neckline and a slit that extended up to her mid-thigh, it still displayed a sizable amount of her ample chest. Both dresses embraced all the curves that turned men into putty, and Hinata wore a cheongsam dress with a slightly bolder neckline that was similarly styled. Kurenai took a step back to admire her creation. As a kind of social experiment, she demanded that they wear them on the way home to gauge public opinion. The outcomes were highly amusing. At least a dozen men of various ages, both shinobi and civilians, choked on their food or drink, accidentally struck themselves with various construction tools, or ran into stationary objects. Shino blushed. Guy was actually quiet for once, and Asuma almost choked on his cigarette. Anko's boss, Ibiki, and I had some of the funniest responses. He walked straight into a wall, face first, and his slack-jawed expression was priceless. The low point was when some of the guys got a little drunk, but they soon discovered that they were dealing with two of the village's most dangerous kunoichi. Kiba tried to lay down some moves on Hinata when he saw her, but she quickly used her Byakugan to shut down the tenketsu in his jaw and vocal cords, stopping all speech for the next 2 hours and making him cower away. The guards were taken aback by Hinata's arrival at Hyuga Manor because they had never witnessed the clan heiress do this before. When he first saw her, Neji went past it to her room while she and her father were fighting in the courtyard. Hiyashi struck him in the forehead, knocking him to the ground as he froze in place. He saw that he continued to stare off in the same direction after he started reprimanding him for lowering his defenses. He saw what he saw by following his nephew's line of sight. "Oh my," he said, sounding shocked. When Hanabi saw this, she approached her two injured male relatives and gave them a head slap. She shouted, "Hey, get a grip, guys, it only Hinata. One-chan," before stomping away. The Hi Hyuga girl muttered, Manor Hyuga 1745 hours. Inside Hiyashi's study, Naruto was anxiously and patiently waiting for Hinata to arrive. He arrived 20 minutes early because Ichigo and Akari advised him that it would be a good impression to be a little early. After letting him in and telling him that Lord Hiyashi wanted to talk to him in his study, the gate guards of Hyuga took him there. His Byakugan was active throughout the one-sided conversation to further reinforce his point, which seemed to have a positive effect and made Naruto go pale when he thought about what Hiyashi would do to him should he screw this up. Once there, Hiyashi launched into the typical fatherly pre-date tirade, telling him to treat his little girl right, make her happy, keep her safe, and most importantly, behave and hands off. Hiyashi was enjoying playing the protective father and was having a great time scaring his daughter's date. In order to do it again, he was practically waiting for Hanabi to start dating, nearly. After a few more uncomfortable minutes of waiting, Neji and Hanabi eventually pulled Hinata out of her preparations. One glance at her was enough to silence one of the village's most boisterous genin. As he handed her the little box he had, he told her in the same stunned tone, "Here. Present for you." "Wow," was all he could say. When she opened it, she saw a lavender and lilac corsage. Given that they were aware of her crush on him, her sister and cousin both grinned at his response. How could they not, after all? She hadn't stopped talking about it since Hiyashi gave her permission to date him. When it came to her beau, Hanabi had never witnessed anything as frightening as her sister. She had once remarked in passing that he looked kind of dopey, but still cute enough for her after seeing a picture of him in her sister's room. Unaware of the exact remark that triggered her sister's fury, Hanabi quickly left the area with the intention of killing her. For a week after that, she would not spar with Hinata or even approach her. Just the other week, Neji experienced his own Naruto mania moment. In the midst of a fight, he blurted out that Hinata kicked his ass 6 ways from Sunday and that Naruto was the best of his class. The young girl's vicious beating of their prodigy made even the clan council a little scared of her. When Hiyashi saw what Naruto had decided to give his daughter, he did permit a small smile. For a brief moment, it brought back memories of what he gave his wife during their youthful dates. He confronted Naruto and said, "Now, Uzumaki-san, about my little girl, have her home at a decent hour and make sure to show her the proper respect, or else." Then he retreated to his usual distance. With a hint of joy, he said, "Other than that, please show her a good time." He gave his approval and sent the two off. 17:15 hours Anko's apartment. Ichigo arrived early and knocked on her door. He was told to take a seat on the couch and that Anko was almost ready by Kurenai, who answered the door and allowed him inside. Kurenai gave him a cup of tea to keep him occupied while he followed instructions. He discussed Hinata and how she now had a physical spine with her while they waited. The fact that her student now had a boyfriend and a very devoted one at that surprised and delighted Kurenai just as much. In addition, she was pleased for her friend, who had been lonely for a long time. Knowing Anko well enough to know that she would never confess, she knew that she was secretly a little jealous of her and Asuma. After a short while, Anko attracted her date's attention by leaving her room and entering the common area. His mouth dropped when he turned around and saw how she looked. He thought she looked stunning in the outfit and minimal makeup Kurenai had created for her. So far, this whole thing has been worth the effort because Anko was thrilled with the response her gown was receiving. Her date was reduced to a timid young child who blushed profusely and held a bouquet of daisies in an odd but adorable half-bow. "Oh, for me?" she cooed sweetly as she took the flowers and sniffed them, thoroughly enjoying the scent. As she walked over to kiss him on the cheek, she said in a slightly sexy way, "They smell wonderful and they're so pretty. Thank you." As she dragged him out the door, headed for the restaurant, she laughed at his atomic red face, even though she could swear she heard the fuses blowing in his head. With a broad smile on her face, she joked with her longtime best friend, "Don't wait up now. Behave yourself, young lady." Kurenai chuckled and reprimanded one another. She would want to know every detail when this was all over. The snake Kunoichi said, "Okay, Mom," as she slipped around the corner. Kurenai was left wondering when Asuma would finally get the courage to ask her out. The crimson-eyed Kunoichi was starting to grow irritated with the man and their relationship's lack of progress. All she could do was hope he would follow Ichigo's example and find a clue. The hour is 17:30 in Dagashia. With plenty of time to spare, Ichigo and Anko had already arrived at the restaurant and found seats. It was a little difficult at first because he was reminded that his date was not well liked by the majority of the village because they initially refused to let her in. She told him it was a sensitive topic when he once asked her why that was the case. However, Ichigo demonstrated his ability to be highly persuasive on the day they first met. He said to the man in a neutral tone, but with a sharply focused intent to kill that almost caused him to lose control of his body, "The lady is with me, sir. Please guide us to a seat." They were immediately let through by the snobbish maître, who led them to one of the best tables in the house while apologizing to Anko repeatedly. "Wow. I might grow accustomed to this. I never imagined going on such a pleasant date. I genuinely like him. He is funny, kind, has a crazy tolerance for alcohol but drinks responsibly, and is just as protective of Naruto as I am. He also looks like an older version of Naruto, which makes me feel safe around him. I could possibly tell him about Orochimaru." As Ichigo pulled out her chair for her, she thought, perhaps. All of the dates she had tried so far treated her like a cheap, easy lay, despite her lifelong desire to be treated like a lady. Before Ichigo appeared, she had all but given up. She would never confess it while sober, but she secretly liked his sense of chivalry, even though he was a fun guy. He never treated her like a piece of meat and let her lower her defenses around him. She must be having a great time with this. I'm happy I made the decision to ask her out. She's funny, intelligent, compassionate, strong, talented, and I could go on. Although I truly like her, I must be cautious when revealing my true self to her. She might do the same for me if she accepts Naruto, but I'm not positive yet. As they placed their food and drink orders, he thought, if you keep this up, I'll tell her someday. They continued their lively conversation, with her sharing more about her past with Ichigo and him about the wave mission. Although she felt that she was truly flirting with disaster, she also felt that she owed him for being a good man and sticking by her side. As she related the bizarre tale of her and Orochimaru, she asked him to bend forward. She gave him her entire being, without holding anything back. She closed her eyes after she was done and waited for him to go in disgust, only to be startled to see that he was still sitting there, looking at her with understanding rather than sympathy or pity. I don't care about any of that. I only see you as you are, Anko Midarashi. A good kunoichi and an even better woman with a strong and kind heart. To tell you the truth, I was a little scared that you wouldn't agree to a date with me. Since you told me your secret, I want to tell you mine. Now the only two in the whole world who know are Inoichi Yamanaka, who performed a mind dive on me when I first arrived, and the Sandaime himself. He said in a quiet voice and started telling her his story. The whole extent of it. I started out as a science experiment for a shadowy group that was known as the Illuminati. Myself and one other, out of hundreds of other subjects who were also experimented on survived. We were meant to be infused with powerful spirits that you know today as the Biju. She said incredulously, The what? But how? In a whisper. Hold on and I'll tell you about it. What you know as the Biju were once just docile animal spirits. Even the fearsome Kyuubi was once a very gentle kitsune spirit, and Shukaku was once very kind as well, as were most of the 9 Biju, until they were all captured. Then, they had summoners, priests and priestesses that worked on making the spirits more powerful, but it drove some of them insane and made the others distrustful of humans. Anko let out a startled gasp. Unlike her sensei Orochimaru, she thought the spirits should be left alone. All of this seemed like something he might attempt if he had the money and resources. Then, they worked on the vessels for the new demons they created. They took over 100 children of various ages from around the world and began to enhance them. The kids were broken down and rebuilt from the ground up, genetically and otherwise. Many of them died during the process. Next, they infused us with some of the chakra from the demons, which only myself and one other the same age as me survived. A girl named Sheena and I were the only two. The after result was that we gained some kind of supernatural powers, such as my ability to control air and water, as well as healing and regenerative abilities. My partner Sheena gained the ability of control fire and limited telepathic and psychokinetic abilities. We both gained sensory abilities, enhanced strength and endurance, reflexes and speed, along with being programmed with various fighting arts. We were created to be the perfect weapons. Anko gasped, That's horrible. Coming from the Queen of Torture, that was impressive. Sheena and I were sent out on missions to test our viability under fire, to which we passed easily. With what they did to us, they essentially created a new species of human. We were still fully able to procreate too, as they wanted to see if they could breed us. Before the implantation of the demons was to take place, 3 sympathizers to our plight set us free. When we were let go, we also set the demons free, but the Kyuubi stayed with us. She felt that she owed us a debt of honor for setting her free and helping her regain her sanity, so she became our companion and trusted friend. Anko was forced to believe him even though she could barely believe what she was hearing. Out of respect and dignity, the Kyuubi, one of the most repulsive demons to have ever set foot on Earth, circled 2 humans. We wandered the world for over 5 years, evading their attempts to recapture and eventually destroy us. She helped us by using her kitsune powers to hide us or help us fight, which sometimes turned into full-scale warfare. Our battles once leveled a major city. Over 1 million people died during the course of the fighting, but the Illuminati didn't care. To obtain their goals, they would kill off entire small countries to do so. There's no such place that has that many people in it. There can't be, she stated to him. This story was starting to seem unfeasible. I haven't finished yet. When I tell you the final secret, you'll understand. Finally, we were tracked to a small town that ran along the Rhine River in a country called Germany. Sheena had been injured in a battle just the week before, so we went there to recover. She didn't have my healing abilities, so the process was slow. We stayed there too long, which resulted in them finding us and launching their attack, but we managed to evacuate most of the townsfolk before they struck. I had Kyuubi take Sheena along with them and I stayed behind to stall them and thin them out. I managed to take down over half of them before I was nearly killed. Kyuubi and Sheena came to my rescue, with Kyuubi using 2 her tails to shield me and the rest to sweep their forces away. Although Anko hasn't personally witnessed his abilities, it would be completely feasible if the report she read about the Wave mission was at least correct in terms of his fighting prowess. After the troops were taken care of, Q came up and told us something peculiar, that she would protect our young and our line, becoming our family's guardian spirit. But right as she declared that, a massive bomb was dropped on us in a final attempt to destroy us. Q and I threw up barriers to stave off the bomb's destructing power, but its energies reacted with mine in a really weird way, and pulled me into a strange vortex. The story was really interesting and all, but you said that you had a final secret. Yes. The secret is that this all happened over 700 years ago. The vortex that swallowed me up spit me out right on top of Hokage Tower a week before I met you. Anko was rendered speechless by this. Time travel? From the past? Wait. You mentioned that you had a line left behind? Ichigo's expression changed to one of sadness. Yes. Sheena and I were lovers. I was told by Sarutobi that I had a living descendant here in the village by having some blood work done on a hunch. I'll give you one guess as to who that is, he stated. Anko gave it a lot of thought and tried to place it by examining his face and hair in detail. Then it struck her like a lightning strike. No way. Naruto? She exhaled deeply. He gave a nod of approval. Very good. I knew you'd figure it out. He's my final living descendant and I'll be damned if anything happens to him on my watch. he said with assurance. It all makes sense now. His protectiveness toward the child is explained by the fact that they nearly look alike. She thought, how sad that he lost his lover too, and leaned forward to take his hands. I'm sorry for doubting your story. I thought that you were crazy or something. Also, I'm sorry about Sheena. You must have loved her very much. His laugh quickly turned to sadness as he told her, don't worry about it. If it hadn't happened to me, I'd have a hard time believing it, too. She was the fiery type, with long fire red hair, almost glowing green eyes, and an attitude for the ages. About Sheena. I still love her, but she's dead, been dead for at least 700 years, but for me it's only been a few months. If it helps, you remind me of her in a lot of ways and I know that she wouldn't want me to mope around forever. She'd probably kick the shit out of me if it did. He started to tell her about his long, dead flame. They went over to investigate when they heard a commotion coming from the restaurant's entrance as Ichigo was finishing his story. When they arrived, they saw a giddy Hinata and a dressed up Naruto attempting to enter but being denied entry by the same mat-hires who had harassed Anko. The tall blonde demanded, what the hell is going on here? The snobbish man snorted when he turned and saw Ichigo. HMPH. I allowed that woman in here but I refused to allow the demon boy to taint our establishment, he grumbled. Anko growled and was about to clock him when Ichigo intervened. You snide little bastard. Fine then. I'll just tell everyone that this place has rotten service, anyway. Let's go, Anko. Chan, Naruto, Hina. Chan. Just know that you turned away a main house Hyuga, the heiress at that, and they don't really like that, he said to the man, making him appear ghostly pale. He started to splutter excuses, groveling and pleading for them to enter. Anko pointed to the partially deserted restaurant and remarked, nope. We placed our order more than half an hour ago, and we never even received our drinks. There's no excuse for that because you aren't even that busy. She pivoted on her heel, seized Ichigo's arm, and strode to the Akamichi's dining establishment. She called out in a playful tone that Naruto recognized, making him smile. Hey Gaki, you bringing your date along, or what? Come on, Hinata. Chan. Let's go with them. Hinata took her date's arm while glaring at the man who was still pleading. As they followed the older pair arm in arm, she said, let's go. Naru.kun. Anywhere is better than this place. Shushuya's hours 1849 they went to a restaurant owned by the Akamichi clan after leaving Dagashiya's. The clan head of the Akamichi clan happened to be there that evening and welcomed them with open arms. Shuza said that both of the girls were extremely attractive, and his wife almost slapped them. He had no idea that the Hyuga heiress was so gorgeous or that their torture princess could clean up so well. He added that the two blondes were extremely fortunate. At Chao's insistence, they were seated with him and his family, essentially receiving a complimentary meal. The Akamichi patriarch accepted the tab as a token of appreciation for lending his son some self-confidence, even though Ichigo and Naruto both reached for their wallets to pay their tabs. Shoji, who hadn't seen Naruto and Hinata since graduation more than 4 months prior, was chatting animatedly with them. Shoji began by telling them about Ichigo's lessons in self-confidence as they caught up on what had been going on in their lives. With cries of, Chubby's rocked, hail to the fluffy, slim fast sucks, big boned, big lovin', and other affirming remarks about larger people, he had Shoji parade around Mawashi for an entire hour. In addition to teaching him some advanced grappling techniques that would make good use of his bulk, he made him repeat this process until he started to believe in himself more. Shoji asked them how they ended up together, dating and all, after they had a good laugh. Hinata told him how she was raised by her sensei and her friend Anko, who helped her feel more confident and valuable. In a pre-date conversation, the pale-eyed girl also described how her father came to approve of Naruto, how he is starting to lighten up, and how he gave Naruto the screws. Shoji wished them luck in their relationship and offered his congratulations. Hours Movie Theater 2049 both couples decided it was time to go on to the next part of the date, which was a movie, after 2 hours of stories and good-natured banter. Unsurprisingly, Anko wouldn't be caught dead at a chick movie, but the group also didn't have a slasher movie planned for the evening. Instead, they chose an action film starring Yukie Fujikaze, who is well known to everyone but Ichigo, anyway. Naruto dozed off on Hinata's shoulder halfway through the film because he was exhausted. She couldn't really blame him because he had just returned from a mission earlier that morning. At that point, the Hyuga girl essentially ignored the movie as she played with his hair and slid his head down to her lap while giggling softly. Ichigo gave a headshake. That should have been the other way around, right? Until he felt something on his own shoulder, he pondered. He turned to see Anko curled up against him, sighing happily and drooling a little. He put his arm around her carefully, grinned, and ended the film. He woke her up with a gentle shake as soon as the credits rolled. So he whispered to her, "Anko-chan, the movie's over." When she woke up and saw Ichigo grinning down at her, she muttered, "MMNN. Wah." With a matching smile, she asked drowsily, "Oh, Ishin, time to go?" "Ishin? Hee." As he assisted her in standing up, he thought, if the shoe fits. He told her about the last part of the date. "Yeah. Let's go home now." Hinata shook Naruto gently to wake him up. In the gentle manner for which she was so well liked, she informed her date, Naru.kun. "It's time to go. Ichigo. Sensei said we're going to go home." After Naruto gave a nod, the group continued on their journey home. 2114 hours Konoha streets. Haku's night following Naruto was rather dull. Because Ichigo and Anko were with them, nobody even approached him. They parted ways to take their dates home just as she was ready to depart. She noticed that Naruto and Hinata were being followed by someone a dozen yards behind them, proving that she wasn't the only one who noticed this. She moved quickly and stealthily to her new Otouto's stalker, her gentle brown eyes hardening behind her mask. She thought the stalker was a lower-class ninja because of its amateur appearance, even though it was clearly a shinobi based on the way they moved and attempted to hide their chakra. As she approached, she could hear the person muttering something indignantly, indicating that they were a man. The individual eventually positioned himself behind a wall in an ambush position and was waiting for them to appear when she hit him with a few strategically placed senbon, dropping the potential attacker like a bad habit. She dragged Naruto away to ID him whenever she felt like it after he had left the site. When she saw who the near assailant was, one Kiba Inuzuka, she dragged him into the light and growled. She left in the senbon that prevents him from moving, but only removed enough to allow him to regain consciousness. He shook him roughly and gave him a few slaps to get him to come around. A low growl came from the kunoichi wielding ice as it said, "So, Inuzuka-san, and use that loosely. What was your purpose in tailing Naruto with the intent to ambush and cause harm? Be honest, or you really won't like me when I'm through." Haku cautioned him. Kiba winced at being discovered. When they first met, he knew she had to be a kunoichi, but he didn't believe she was that good. With his clan's signature fangs, he growled, "That stupid Dobi is running around with what's mine. What's a forging whore like you care, anyway?" As he felt the temperature drop sharply, she shot back in a cold tone, "What have I told you about treating women like property?" She put more pressure on Kiba and covered his arm with ice when he didn't respond. When the ice started to creep up his arm, the dog boy started to panic, but there was nothing he could do about it. He thought of a way out of this situation as his mind raced. "Hey. You can't really hurt me. I'm the heir to the Inuzuka clan. You'd get into a lot of trouble if you hurt me," he said with an air of smugness. She smirked cruelly at him, shattering his hurriedly acquired self-confidence. "Look over on that rooftop across from us. Do you see those two Anbu there? What would have happened if they caught you instead of me? They would have killed you for endangering the Hyuga heiress, regardless of her company." Almost immediately, Kiba's skin and face lost all of their color. She paused, causing her murderous intent to flare violently. "I see that you've spotted them, too. I will let you go now so that you can cower back to your home, but know this," she said. "If you so much as go near them, I'll not only tell your sensei, but also Hinata-chan's father and Naruto's sensei about your little vendetta and your foolishness. They can be far more harsh on you than I can. Rest assured of that," she said in a confident voice. The dog boy was on the verge of a fit. If his mother only grounded him and his sister Hana only physically assaulted him, he would be fortunate. He was aware that Hinata's father would kill him without hesitation if he posed a threat to his oldest daughter, and he had heard countless terrifying tales about Naruto's new sensei. For the time being, he chose to concede defeat and cut his losses. Haku was happy with his response and left after ensuring Naruto entered the Hyuga compound without incident before heading home. The Anbu she indicated materialized in front of her before she could depart. "That was some nice work, Miss Momochi. I've been told that you will be taking a placement test in a week's time. If you rank high enough, we would like to extend an invitation to join the Anbu should you choose to. You've got some decent and solid skills, not to mention that neat ice trick of yours." She graciously declined, saying, "Thank you, Anbu-san, but I'd like to stay near my new family for a little while as I get used to life in this village." The lead Anbu let out a sigh. As they faded into the night, he said to her, "Well, can't argue with that. Offer stands, though, should you reconsider." Shaking her head, Haku immediately returned to the apartment she shared with her new guardian with the intention of sleeping soundly. Manor Hyuga 2130 hours. Hinata was walking with Naruto to her father's study because he wanted Naruto to personally bring her to him safely. Naruto was welcomed by Hanabi and Neji in addition to Hiyashi when he entered. He reasoned that they might be the ones holding him down if he made a mistake, and they would be the ones who saw him kick his ass. In a strangely friendly tone that he hadn't anticipated from the man who had sent them on their way earlier that night, he asked him, "So Uzumaki-san, what did you two do on your date?" Well, we went out to dinner, ran into Ichigo, Sensei and Anko Sensei, who were out on a date like us and at the same restaurant. After dinner, we went out for a movie, then we came straight back here, sir. He responded to the man with integrity and sincerity. The Hyuga patriarch grinned pleasantly and gave his approval. Hanabi was preoccupied with admiring Naruto's appearance after Neji nodded his approval. She seemed pleased with what she saw. After accompanying Naruto to the gate, Hinata gave him a timid first kiss. It was chaste and very brief, but that didn't make the feelings any less intense. He stood in mild shock as she vanished into the compound and said, "I had a lot of fun tonight. Good night, Naruto-kun." One of the branch guards at the gate caught his attention. Making a face gesture, he stammered, Did she?" The female branch member who was the guard burst out laughing at his response to the kiss. She responded to him after she had calmed down a bit. "Yep, she sure did. Lady Hinata really seems to like you, kiddo. You're extremely lucky, so treat her right, okay?" He whooped with delight, kicked up his heels, and practically floated all the way home. "As if I needed to be told how lucky I am. She's the greatest," he exclaimed. Her companion laughed and shook his head. "Kids got it bad, sweet youth, huh?" She said, "You have no idea." 2135 HRS, Anko's apartment. Anko stopped short of opening the door as they walked up to her apartment. She said, "So, you want to come in for a quick drink?" "I'd love to, but I need to get going. I've got to make sure Naruto made it home all right and check on Haku." He said no. "Oh well. If nothing else, I'll give him a fantastic good night kiss," she thought evilly. She made out with him on her doorstep and responded in a seductive manner, "Ah, that's a shame. Next time, then." They had to take a breather after an unplanned makeout session that lasted for a full minute and a half. In her typical light-hearted manner, Anko conveyed her genuine emotions to him, saying, "That was for the wonderful night. I loved it. It was also to make sure you came back for more." He gave her one last kiss on the cheek, which caused her face to briefly flush, and then vanished into the night, saying, "I'd have come back for another date, anyway. I liked it, too. Good night, Anko-chan." After inserting her key into the lock and opening the door, she discovered Kurenai dozing on her couch, snoring a little and holding a magazine to her face. She woke up as soon as they entered the room, proving that being a Junin wasn't for nothing. Sitting up, she stretched and yawned. Kurenai inquired, "So, how'd it go, and Chan?" to her lifelong friend. With a huge smile, she shot back, "Let me get us some drinks first, then I'll tell you about the greatest night of my life." Apartment 2150 HRS, Anko. As the purple-haired Kunoichi started to tell the story of their date, Anko and Kurenai had taken up residence in her living room and were enjoying some sake and dango. Everything else was up for discussion, but she was careful to leave out the parts where Ichigo revealed to her who he really is and what that would mean. Kurenai sipped from her tiny bottle of sake, her lips forming a tiny smile as she listened carefully to the specifics of the evening. "So Chan, how did the date end? Did he kiss you?" She laughed. Anko's blush, which would make a lobster run for a lawyer, gave the genjutsu mistress the effect she wanted. Before responding, Anko took a deep pull on her bottle and drained its contents. In a daze of love, she answered softly, "Yeah, he did." Kurenai was laughing uncontrollably at her infamous best friend swooning at that very moment. Anko appeared somewhat irritated by it. She pouted, "What's so damn funny? Listen to you. Swooning like a schoolgirl over a guy. I never thought I'd see this happen to you of all people," Kurenai chuckled. Anko snarled, "And what's that supposed to mean, Chan?" "Whoa there, I just meant that I thought you never considered things like this before. I mean, I've tried to get you into a dress for ages, but you've always refused to do it. Now, this new guy comes along, you two seem to click, and now here you are. Back from your first date with the guy and his goodnight kiss nearly makes you cream. That had to be one hell of a kiss." Anko was jolted back into La La Land when she remembered the goodnight kiss. With a broad smile, Anko said, "I had no complaints." She then got up and started taking off her clothes for the evening. Kurenai said, "You going to bed, now?" "Yeah. I'm kinda beat. It's been a long day for me, you know. Since it's late, you can crash here if you want to." Kurenai grinned, nodded, and sank back into the comfortable sleep she had experienced upon returning home. Before going to bed, Enko took a bath and laughed as she shook her head. She was unable to think of anything but the amazing night she had just experienced and the blonde man who made it possible when she finally went to sleep. Hyuga Compound. Simullarly. The door to the bathroom slid open, revealing Hinata's younger sister as she prepared to take a quick bath before heading out. She said to the girl, who was Ni. "Hi, oh, Hanabi. Chan. You coming in, too?" Hanabi grinned slightly in response. As she handed her older sister a small bottle of milk she had grabbed from the kitchens on her way in, she replied, "Of course. After all, I want to hear all the details of your little date, Nei. Chan." Before discussing what transpired during their night out, the couple spent the first few minutes getting comfortable and settled in. Hinata began, spitting out air quotes. "Well, the first part of the night you and Ni.san saw, with Odo Sama giving Naruto.kun what he called a talk until I came out." Hanabi burst out laughing as she recalled the conversation she had with her father about the blonde. "That was hilarious. I thought he'd have a meltdown or something when he saw you, though," she laughed. "You think so?" Hinata asked with a laugh. She was thrilled with the response she received from her target. The loudest genin in Konoha was reduced by her to a startled silence and then to a clumsy young boy. "Yeah. I can see why you like him, just a little. He is kind of cute in person and he cleans up very nicely. He also seemed like he was a real nice guy, not a stuck-up jerk like most of our clan or that Uchiha jerk that all of the girls at the academy seem so stuck on. I don't see what's so great about him, anyway." Hanabi sighed. A very mature judgment for a girl of her age, she had previously met the brooding Sasuke and thought him dull. However, Hanabi was always a little older than she was. For example, when she was 5 years old, she grabbed one of her father's Icha books and gave him a detailed critique. At 6, Hanabi took her and some older female clan members shopping for underwear and held up a very provocative pair of panties for her to try on. The young girl was pleasantly surprised, though, as she had developed the habit of learning some things about Naruto over the previous few months. Despite both being orphans, Naruto seemed to be Sasuke's complete opposite in terms of personality. His classification as the dead last of his class has become less and less justified in recent years. He was already a quick thinker and appeared to get stronger and better almost exponentially. And then there was what happened tonight. Indeed, Hanabi was cursing her for not being Hinata's age when she realized Naruto was a keeper. Hinata simply laughed away the memories and shook her head. "I know what you mean, Aimu-chan. I was in that jerk's class for years, and all he ever did was sulk and brood. Those brain-dead fangirls were always making trouble for anyone who threatens to do better than their precious Uchiha. I'm just glad that's all over and Naruto.kun and I are finally together." Hanabi enjoyed this type of conversation with her sister, but she was eager to get to the main topic of the evening. She smiled mischievously and said, Nay. What else happened tonight, Nei-chan?" Hinata briefly assumed a fictitious thinking position. She teased her younger sister, saying, "Nope. You're not old enough to hear, Aimu-chan. Mo, come on, tell me. Hanabi pleaded, applying her pouty expression, which appealed to several adults in the clan. In the hopes that Hinata would reveal the truth, Hanabi reflected, even some of the academy instructors, both Shinobi and Kunoichi, caved in with this one. Hinata snickered, then burst out laughing. She hadn't laid eyes on that face in a few years. Hanabi was starting to get angry. Nay. What's that for? What's so funny?" Hinata paused for a moment to catch her breath. As she summarized the entire evening for her, she laughed and said, "Your face, it was just so cute, I'll tell you." Hanabi listened to her sister's story with awe, hoping that when she grew up, she would be able to go on a date like that. Stories about the two Junin and the company they were in had been told to her. Enko Mitarashi and the boogeyman from the T&I department were synonymous. Ichigo Suzumiya had no real history and was a complete mystery. The Hyuga Information Network supposedly knew everything about him, but aside from his rank, age, and physical characteristics, everyone except the Hokage himself was in the dark about him. Without showing any lack of interest, the sawed-off Hyuga girl asked, "But what about when he left, Nei-chan? Did you kiss him?" When Hinata was questioned about her first kiss, she reverted to her previous behavior. In shame, she squeaked out, "Yes, I did." Hanabi exclaimed, "Ah, how was it?" with excitement. With her chin in her hands, Hinata answered dreamily, It was wonderful." They continued until they both felt the need to go to bed. After splitting up, the Hyuga sisters went to bed. Before closing her eyes, Hinata took one last look at a framed candid photo she had taken of Naruto one day. Good night, Naruto.kun. The apartment complex of Naruto, 2216 hours. Ichigo had just arrived back at the complex and went to see how Naruto was doing. He quietly entered the apartment and looked around for him because he had an extra key. He discovered the boy wearing his typical pajamas, grinning broadly, as if to express his love for his Hina-chan and the softness of her lips. He excused himself from the room after almost losing his temper over those overly adorable remarks he had made while sleeping. Sake saw the Hyuga girl kiss her container, and her face lit up with a big, foxy smile inside the seal. "I'm so happy those two met. They seem like such a cute couple, and I have no doubt that they will have a long and happy life together." She hunkered down and slept herself, thinking, "I know for a fact that she is a very kind soul and will love him forever, till eternity come." Ichigo opened his own door and discovered Haku dozing off on his couch, snoring softly. He entered the apartment without her even noticing. He thought, "Man, she's really exhausted. She can't be very comfortable here on the couch." Gently, he picked her up bridal style from the couch and tucked her into his own bed. He gave his newly discovered ward a warm smile while she slept soundly. "I wonder if this is how being a parent feels, similar to how I felt with Naruto. Shina, did you feel this way about our kids?" He thought as he got out his pajamas and the clothes he would need for the following day, went to the room to change, and then fell asleep on the couch. Dreamscape. The dream of Ichigo. As soon as he closed his eyes, he opened them to discover that everything around him was white. He got up and started to look around, but he quickly spun around when he felt someone tap his shoulder. He was shocked to see Shina standing in front of him, dressed in a white robe. He wiped his eyes angrily, barely believing what he was seeing. When she didn't vanish, he muttered, "This can't be happening, no way." Shina approached him and gave him a firm embrace. "No, Ichigo. This isn't a dream. I always wondered what happened to you. I thought that you died, but you somehow wound up in the future. I'm so glad you're still alive." As he gave her a firm embrace, he exhaled, "You're real." She gave him a hug in return but withdrew. "Ichigo. You have to let me go." "Why? You need to live and love again. You can't shut yourself away or push happiness away from you. I want you to be happy. This Anko, I see much of myself in her. Please don't see this as a betrayal of me. I approve of her," she said sorrowfully as she started to vanish. "Shina. Don't go," he choked, reaching for her but failing to find her. As she faded away entirely, she said to him, "Goodbye, Koibito. Live a long life and be happy, for me. I love you, forevermore." He whispered as he returned to consciousness, "Goodbye, my love." The following morning at 0630 hours, Haku was no longer on the couch when she slowly woke up and wiped the sleep from her eyes. Instead, she woke up and went to check on her foster parent, who was dozing off on the couch. "I think he put me in his own bed. It was kind of him to do that," she thought as a thought occurred to her. She entered the kitchen, prepared some breakfast, and put on the apron he always wore. When Ichigo smelled the aroma of food, he slowly woke up. He initially questioned who was preparing the food, but then he recalled that Haku was now living with him. When he discovered breakfast waiting for him, he put on his hurriedly discarded uniform and headed to the kitchen. Haku prepared some grilled sanma with rice and miso. It was very easy, but it smelled amazing. He sat down at the kitchen table and greeted her drowsily, "Mornin', Haku-chan." Haku grinned as he turned around. A cheerful, "Good morning, Ichigo, Oja-san," was her response. "Uncle Ichigo." As she started to distribute the food among 3 plates, he pondered. "Hold on a second. 3? Observing the perplexed expression on his face, Haku clarified that she had invited Naruto to join her for breakfast and that he would arrive at any moment. As soon as she finished speaking, Naruto entered the kitchen and smelled the food. He said, Smells good Haku." Upon seeing his sensei. "Morning, Ichigo." "Sensei," Naruto said joyfully as he sat down opposite him. Before Haku brought the plates to the table, he acknowledged the younger blonde and took a sip of his coffee. "Mornin', kiddo." The fact that Naruto was carrying the kodachi he had given him on the wave mission pleased him. As soon as they were all seated, they began eating breakfast while the simultaneous cry of "Itadakimasu" echoed. After that, they all finished the dishes and got ready for their different days. Haku had intended to restock her senbon supply and get in some training. She also intended to prepare dinner that evening, despite Ichigo's assurance that he would, so she would have to go shopping afterwards. Ichigo gave her some money to do so after nodding. In the meantime, Ichigo and Naruto went to prepare for their 45-minute team meeting. The doors were locked behind them and the residence's day began as soon as they were all ready. 0800 hours training ground number 7. He already gained some team points because the blonde pair arrived at the training grounds with a few seconds to spare. Sakura gave Naruto a strange look as he ran over to the team, turning away from him in embarrassment. He wasn't the only one who noticed that the girl with the pink hair was acting in a very odd way. Ichigo's eyes narrowed a little as he tried to figure out what was on her mind right now. Alright, this is a little strange, Naruto thought, pushing the idea out of his mind for the time being. To speak, Ichigo cleared his throat. My name is Ichigo Suzumiya, your new Junin sensei, as you already know. I was already briefed on how Kakashi handled you, and I will put a stop to it, here and now. You will all be treated and trained equally and fairly. I will do my best to devote however long it takes to turn you all into the best you can be and also into a cohesive team. He told the newly formed Team 7 and hoped for an improved one. Now, to start off, I'd like you all to do introductions. I'll start off. I am Ichigo Suzumiya, age 24, birthday August 25th. My likes are good food, friends, training, and protecting all who are precious to me. My dislikes are rude, arrogant people who think everything should just be handed to them based on their name or status, ignorant people who prosecute the innocent, and outright cruelty. I haven't fully decided on my goal yet, but my dream is to one day have a family of my own, which I never had before. Nothing really surprised Naruto because he already knew this much about his new sensei. Knowing that some of the dislikes were directed at individuals who were similar to him, Sasuke sneered. Sakura was at a loss for what to think. He opened up a lot more than Kakashi did, but why did he seem so sad at the last part? Is pondered. Who cares? This guy is a raving psychopathic murderer. Didn't you see what he did on the bridge? FG countered. Oh, shut up. He did that to protect us from all of those mercenaries. This sensei already won a couple of points in my book by being on time, actually introducing himself properly, and not reading a disgusting smut book while speaking to us. I like this guy already. Is cheered as he raised a small banner with across it. Ichigo was genuinely hesitant to assume control. The Elder Council had already harassed him about ensuring Sasuke was registered for the Chunin exams. He retorted that he lacked sufficient experience and that Chunin were leaders, at which he was a miserable failure. His excessively inflated ego and pride would put any team he attempted to lead in jeopardy due to his self-centered nature. He eventually stated that he would do it, if only to indicate that he wasn't ready yet, after the elders persisted in their pressure. Okay. First up will be sparring practice. Each of you will go one-on-one with me to determine your ability and what I should teach you. Sasuke Uchiha, you are first. He addressed the child. The two engaged in a square dot off in the center of the clearing. To Ichigo's dismay, Sasuke instantly activated his Sharingan. He commanded, no Sharingan. Turn it off, please. The order made Sasuke look angry. What? Why? I am a Uchiha. I know that, and so does 99% of the village, trust me. I said no Sharingan because you cannot come to rely on it all the time. It sucks up chakra to keep it active, and you may find yourself in situations where you must conserve your chakra. Besides, the better you are without it, the better you will be when you do use it. You following this? The fact that this sensei was completely unlike Kakashi left Sasuke with no choice but to pout. He took the idea of treating everyone equally and without favoritism very seriously. If they won't concentrate on me, how am I going to obtain the authority to murder my brother? He became angry as he followed instructions and turned off his eyes. He tried to establish himself as the team's top dog by launching himself at his new sensei with a snarl. After assessing his style for 2 minutes, he used very simple strategies and jutsu to gradually wear him down. The blonde sensei had the exact counter for each move and jutsu used by the Uchiha heir. He ultimately chose to use a standard arm bar takedown to end the spar, forcing him to tap out. He let him go and shared his ideas. I think that you need to refine your basics. Your taijutsu is very good for your age group and can only improve over time, but you have a habit of getting cocky and overconfident, not to mention letting your anger get the better of you. Your Kaiden Jutsu library is decent for a genin, but you failed to use the basic academy jutsu, which could spare you a lot of pain and time. Sasuke took offense at the remarks, believing that being told that he still needed to get better was an insult. Kakashi would have taught me a new jutsu by now. Why are you wasting your time on these two losers, anyway? Ichigo was furious about Sasuke's obvious disrespect for his teammates, but he realized he wasn't the only one who felt that way when he turned to face Sakura and Naruto. That's enough of that attitude, young man. You are on a team and they're your teammates. The sooner that you get used to the fact that I don't run things like Hitaki does, the better. I refuse to cater to your ego like he did in anything you learn from me. The others will, as well. Hear this and heed it. Don't screw with me or you won't live long enough to regret it. He chastised the wannabe Avenger next. Taking his turn, Naruto stood up. As was to be expected, Naruto employed his Kage Bunshin, but he did so more sparingly and intelligently. He employed a clone as a hammer as one of his moves. After giving it some thought, Ichigo called it the clone sledgehammer. He then changed his momentum in midair by using his clones as stepping stones to dodge a kick that he almost collided with face first. Even though he knew Ichigo well, he gave him a little more trouble than Sasuke, but after a few minutes, he defeated him with a powerful gut shot. Very good, Naruto. You still need to work on your chakra control some more and work on your hand seal speed. Your taijutsu form and technique are very good for your age like Sasuke, but I'd like you to work on your defenses. You get a little too eager to strike and you drop your guard as a result. On another note, the way you worked your Kage Bunshin into your taijutsu was a stroke of genius. Your opponents will have a much harder time with you if you keep coordinated with you clones. Finally, keep up the good work with using that short blade. You've gotten quick with your draw, but keep practicing. You'll only get better. Ichigo knew better than Naruto, who began to complain, chakra control, but sensei. In full teacher mode, he turned to his last pupil and said, no buts except yours, parked on that stump in meditation. Trust me, kiddo. It'll make your chakra go farther if you do. Meditation and chakra control exercises will be part of your daily warm-ups from now on. Sakura, it's your turn. Sakura got up and went to her sensei's location. She stepped up despite her natural apprehension about confronting her new sensei. Ichigo observed her uneasiness and pondered the cause. With genuine concern, he asked, is there anything wrong, Miss Haruno? Sakura saw genuine concern for her well-being in her new sensei's eyes as she looked up into them. It's nothing, sensei. She hurriedly answered, attempting to hide her jealousy. Despite his lack of conviction, he accepted it. Very well, then. Come at me. Use any means you wish, including lethal ones. He gave the order. He got things started by having her choose the opening move for the spar. She was panting heavily after 2 minutes, which convinced him to end the spar. In a desperate attempt to catch her breath, the pinkette was on her hands and knees. In an instant, he was by her side, evaluating the circumstances. As she began to feel better, he gave her advice. Take it easy. Just try to take deep breaths and raise your hands above your head to expand your lungs. This will help you breathe easier. Nervously, she accepted his hand when he offered to help her stand. Your endurance needs a lot of work, Sakura. Your basic taijutsu form is decent, but you need to do more physical exercises to build to endurance, speed, and strength. To add to that, I hear that you diet all the time. My advice is to stop. It just isn't healthy for a girl your age to diet while she's still growing. Doing so can actually stunt your growth and development, as well as prevent you from gaining much needed muscle strength. Your chakra control is almost absurdly high for a girl your age, but you have next to non-existent stores, making your problem is just the opposite of Naruto's. I'd like you and Naruto to team up and help with each other's weaknesses while Sasuke refines his basic skills and works on his attitude. He informed the exhausted girl, extending his hand to help her up. Training continued until the sun was starting to set, at which point Sakura collapsed in exhaustion, almost unconscious. Sasuke mocked her attempts to better herself, saying, TCH, she's such a weakling. She should just give this up. She'll never be anything but one of my fangirls. His remarks were extremely annoying to Ichigo and Naruto. Even though he no longer adores Sakura, Naruto didn't think this was cool. Sasuke's attitude was hindering their teamwork, and she remained a comrade and teammate. With a brief outburst of ki, the tall sensei intimidated Sasuke into silence and sent the team home for the day. He approached the weary girl and lifted her onto his back. He told his young pupil, Naruto, go ahead. I have something to do in town. After giving Sakura a worried look, Naruto turned and made his way home. As he began walking toward her house, Sakura stirred on his back. Her voice was groggy as she muttered, MMMNN. Sensei? Yes, was his response to her. She questioned, what happened? Why are you carrying me? You exerted yourself during training, but it's nothing a good meal and a good night's rest won't fix, he said with kindness. With a melancholy tone, she replied, oh. He chuckled warmly as he joked with her, now, something is wrong, isn't there? No use trying to hide it. I'd like to think they don't hand these vests out to just anyone, you know. She seemed calmed by his good humor and laughter. Ino was right. Something about him just eases me. He feels so soothing. I think we can trust him. He's nothing like that bastard Hitaki in personality, thankfully, IS told her host. He opened up a bit more and told her a fictional but true part of his past as they started talking about random topics like books and candy, which he actually enjoyed, unlike most guys. Her heart ached for her new sensei when she learned about Shina, even though the way he told it wasn't accurate. Sensei, why are you telling me all this? She inquired. She couldn't understand why he would divulge any personal information. Because I want to show you that you can trust me. I won't pry into your lives, but it would be nice if you all trusted me enough to tell me when you're having a problem. I'm your sensei, yes, but a student should be able to trust their sensei and vice versa. He stated the truth. She tightened her hold around his neck after receiving the response, which caused her to smile faintly before drifting off to sleep. As she fell silent, Is whispered, "Thank you, sensei." The residence of Haruno in the late afternoon, Ichigo arrived at her home and entered the Haruno's store. When he entered, Sanae was sweeping in the back and Takeo was seated behind the counter. Their parents started to worry when they saw their little girl's condition, but the tall blonde told them she was just tired and fell asleep while he carried her home. As he gently released Sakura into her father's arms, Sanae smiled at him with great gratitude. After escorting her to her room, the three of them put her to bed for the night. Sanae stopped him just as he was ready to leave and head home. "Please, we must do something to repay you for your kindness. If anything, stay for dinner. It's the least we could do," she begged. This new sensei was practically a gift from God. They wanted to express their gratitude because he brought back so many memories of the Yondaime. "Well, if I could invite Naruto and one other over, I'd love to," he said. At the acceptance, the Haruno parents were overjoyed. In addition, they would finally get to see Naruto again. Sanae exclaimed with delight, "Of course, you can. We'd love to see Naruto-chan again." After saying that, he went outside and disappeared in a tiny water cyclone. He reappeared 5 minutes later, accompanied by Haku and Naruto. The older Haruno lady hurried to Naruto and seized him in a firm hug. She was clearly worried about him and had missed him. "You've grown so much, Naruto-chan. I remember when you were much smaller, you were so adorable and still are," she exclaimed with joy, doing what most women would have done given the opportunity to see the glomp of death, which was incredibly adorable. Next was Takeo, who gave the boy a vigorous pat on the back after noticing the short blade on his back. The blonde boy smiled sadly but joyfully in response to his words. "I agree. You've really grown, and boy. You're even a real live shinobi now, and you certainly look the part with that blade you carry. I'm so proud of you." He hoped that these two of his most valued individuals would be proud of him, and they were. Introductions to Haku came next. Her father died while they were on their mission in Wave Country, and she was taken in by Ichigo, who became her legal guardian until she was 18. She was originally from Water Country, he explained, and she became like Naruto's big sister. Sanae exclaimed, "Oh my, Haku-chan. You're such a pretty young lady," as the girl with the ice blushed brightly and smiled shyly. There was never really an older woman nearby for Haku to chat with. The group filed into the dining room for dinner after exchanging pleasantries and greetings. In order to make up for all the time lost when Naruto had to leave for her family's safety 5 years prior, Sanae spent most of the evenings caring for him, making sure he ate enough, and asking him about his date with Hinata and how they were getting along. Sakura listened to the laughter at the dinner table while sitting upright in her bed. Why do they feel so content with the ice wench, the psycho, and the dobi? Why do they like Sasuke-kun so much when they are so much less cool? G pondered, perplexed as to why anyone would enjoy Naruto's companionship. You just don't learn, do you? When are you going to learn that Naruto-kun, sensei, and Haku-san aren't the problem, you are? Listen to the happiness that we always miss out on because of your stupid obsession, Is responded. FG sneered. Please, Naruto is useless, sensei is a heartless murderer, and that ice bitch is out to steal my Sasuke-kun. Sensei is not a murderer, he is a very kind man and I'm proud that he's our sensei. Naruto is not useless, either. He saved us on that wave mission more than once, which you so confidently forgot. And Haku-san hates that stupid Uchiha almost as much as I do, Is screamed. She would never hear a negative word about Ichigo again because of what he did for her today. The fact that he would now be teaching her made her very proud. Naruto and company were getting ready to head home while the two inner selves were busy fighting the next world war in her mind. Ichigo stretched out his arms and said to his small group, "Ah, such a lovely dinner, Sanae-san. We had such a nice evening, didn't we guys?" In a courteous but sincere manner, Haku said, "Yes, you are quite a good cook, Haruno-san." Naruto added wistfully, "Yeah, it brought back some good memories." The compliment made Sanae laugh and blush a little. As they left into the night together, she exclaimed with joy, "Thank you for the compliments, Haku-chan, Naruto-chan, Ichigo-kun. You are all welcome back anytime you want." Page 1. She sincerely hoped they would return. She was happy that someone like Haku had adopted a sisterly role in Naruto's life and thought she was a very nice girl. She also thought that Ichigo's decision to adopt her was admirable. She was aware that the council was naturally avaricious and would have taken advantage of her greatly if he and the Hokage had not taken their actions. Sanae looked at her husband and said, "They really make a good family, don't they, dear?" Takeo agreed with the woman he loved and said, "Yeah, they do. Ichigo would make a wonderful father someday with how he handles Naruto and Haku, as well as how he handled Sakura when he brought her home." As she went inside to clean up and head to bed for the night with her husband at her side, Sanae remarked, "Naruto-chan has certainly grown up well. He looked just like a professional shinobi, a far cry from the boy he used to be. But, underneath, the lovable little boy we knew is still there, just a little more mature now." Sakura had been at her window watching the send off. "My parents. Really think of them that way?" FG Sakura asked, almost falling asleep. "If you'd pull your head out of the Tami's ass every once in a while, you'd notice these things. You really are a first rate dumbass." IS breathed a sigh of relief. Earlier in the day, Hyuga compound, with a gentle smack, Hinata silenced her alarm and began to slowly awaken. She checked the time, let out a little groan, and started preparing to meet her team for training and possibly a mission. Considering what Kiba had attempted to do the day before, she really didn't want to deal with him at this time as she went about her morning routine. Just because Haku-san or I won't be his girlfriend, it wasn't right to frame Naruto-kun for something he didn't do. He will simply have to accept the reality that we don't care about him. As she headed to the kitchen to make herself a bento for lunch and some breakfast, she told herself, "Naruto-kun is the only one for me." She made her lunch, then sat down between Hanabi and Neji at her family's dining table and started eating. She exuded a lot more confidence, and the two were aware of who was responsible for that. Well, if she's this happy, that date must have gone well. But I'd hate to be on her bad side again, Neji thought, shuddering uncontrollably. On a bad day, Dark Hinata was just as terrifying as Hiyashi, if not more so. After he started to lighten up, Neji and Hiyashi had reached a consensus. Hiyashi told his nephew that he still missed his brother and described what had happened when his father passed away. The family grew closer when the boy grinned and pardoned his uncle. Following her completion, Hinata thanked her and left the compound to meet with her sensei and team for training. Training grounds for Team 8. Hinata sat down on a stump to wait for her teammates, arriving at their team's preferred training location first. Shino was the first to arrive, and he gave her a small nod of greeting before imitating her and finding a stump to sit on while they waited. Kiba, the last person she wanted to see, appeared a few more moments later. He focused on a single Hinata and immediately crept over to stand next to her, essentially disregarding her comfort level and personal space. She gently asked him, "Kiba-san, would you not sit so close like that?" But he put an arm around her waist and drew her in, ignoring her request entirely. He leaned in to steal a kiss, but Shino grabbed his jacket collar and pulled him away from his clearly uninterested teammate. "Ah, come on, Hinata-chan. Why waste your time on the dobi when you've got me right here? I won't tell if you don't." He said this in a hormone-drenched tone. Kiba took offense at Shino's actions. He yelled at the silent and unflinching Aburame, "What the hell, man? Do you see me wrecking your chances, slim as they are, at getting some tail?" In his typical monotone, Shino said, "Kiba, please respect your teammate's wishes. She obviously did not want you that close to her." Kiba was about to deck the bug user when Kurenai decided to arrive, and he started to splutter in rage. She caught a glimpse of what was happening and was not at all happy. With her red eyes narrowed in suspicion and annoyance, she asked him in a very cold tone, "Kiba, what did you mean by about getting some tail, and what does that have to do with Hinata?" He became pale as he began to make a litany of excuses to prevent her from informing his mother about his actions. For the moment, it seemed to be working, but she continued to watch him suspiciously. "God damn it, not only is that ice bitch upset with me, but sensei as well. Naruto, you are solely to blame for this. Though she isn't aware of it yet, Hinata is mine." Kurenai and Shino watched Kiba closely during the practice session and their D-rank mission to prevent him from making any foolish moves. Shino wasn't a fool. He was aware that Hinata was already in love with Naruto, and he reciprocated, formally establishing the two as a couple. It simply wouldn't do for a brash jerk like Kiba to undo all of the progress Hinata has made in such a short period of time. Kurenai had much the same sentiment. As the once painfully shy and timid girl began to come out of her shell, she thought the change that had occurred in Hinata in recent weeks was very welcome. In fact, Naruto was a positive influence on her and had done wonders for her confidence. Kiba, on the other hand, was as hormone-ridden as they come. She caught him staring at her ass on occasion, but she chose not to subject her student to a hell brought on by genjutsu. He was nearly as awful as the bartenders who were constantly pursuing her in Anko. She was sure she would eventually have to take action regarding him. She dismissed her team for the day, and before they knew it, practice was over. Kiba immediately resumed pressuring Hinata to go out with him after she finished speaking. The dog-boy laid down his best moves and said to Hina-chan, "Hey, Hina-chan. Why don't we go find the Dobi and tell him that we're together? I know that you'll like Emmy better, anyway." Unbeknownst to him, but to us, his weak and pitiful pick-up line only made her more irate. Before he knew it, the Hyuga maiden had given him a full knuckle punch that was packed with chakra and might have required orthodontic treatment. "First of all, Inuzuka-san, only my family, very close friends, Ichigo-sensei and Naruto-kun can call me Hina-chan. Secondly, don't you ever touch me without my permission again. Last but certainly not least, don't you ever call my Naruto-kun Adobe ever again, or being able to have little dog boys and girls will be the least of your worries." She growled at his crumpled body as she stormed toward her house. Shino and Kurenai were prepared to intervene and stop the overbearing horndog, but Hinata handled the matter expertly and also had an incredible right hook. Both of them sighed in disgust as they gazed at the fallen Inuzuka heir. Finally, Kurenai grabbed him by the rumpled shirt. As she walked away, she said to Shino, "I'll take Kiba home. I need to talk with his mother, anyway." Shino made a small adjustment to his sunglasses. Returning to the Aburame compound, known as the Hive, he muttered, "Things just got troublesome." In the interim, with Team 10 with a loud sigh, Asuma released a drag he had been suppressing from his cigarette for a few seconds. Since he became their sensei, Shikamaru, Choji, and Ino had all been getting better, but he and her teammates would really like to know where he's at right now. The chain smoking sensei halted the spar after Ino threw Choji another clumsy, ill-aimed kick. He had her sit under a tree to reflect. "Ino, what's going on? You're so distracted today, it's not like you. Why don't you go sit down and rest for a few minutes while Shikamaru and Choji spar?" he asked. "What am I doing wrong? I'm having trouble focusing on anything today. I wonder," she thought, until the rationale dawned on her. Tragically, she thought, Naruto-kun. Since she discovered that she truly liked the spiky blonde, she had been in a bad mood. However, she soon discovered that Hinata had already taken him. To put it simply, she was feeling depressed because the boy she had been ignoring for years while foolishly attempting to win over a huge jerk, the boy who she believed would be ideal for her and who met all of her requirements, the boy she had harmed severely from the first time she met him but who was gracious enough to forgive her, was already in a relationship with the last person she had ever imagined asking him out. Hinata is extremely fortunate. I don't want to say it, but, she hesitated, her baby blue eyes stinging with tears. "I can't help but feel envious. Naruto-kun is my favorite, I want to avoid feeling so awful." On the outside, she was unable to control her tears, but on the inside, she cried. She told Asuma that she wasn't feeling well and got up to run to him. He told her to go home and rest after noticing the tears in her eyes and promised to stop by later to see how she was doing. Shop for Yamanaka flowers. She hurried across the rooftops until she eventually arrived at her house, where she immediately ran to her mother and sobbed uncontrollably. As she led Ino to the kitchen and seated her at the table, Akari, who was both shocked and extremely concerned by her daughter's actions, swiftly hung the closed sign in the store. Concerned, she said, "Ino dear, what's wrong, Mom? Is it a bad thing to really like someone who's already going out with another girl?" she asked her mom. She stumbled, What do you?" until she realized what was happening. Akari asked quietly, "I see. This is about Naruto, isn't it?" And Ino nodded. "It is. Since team selections and since Ichigo-sensei had that talk with me, I've thought about a lot of things that pining over that jerk Sasuke cost me. Ichigo-sensei asked me what I would look for in the man I want to be with and I told him. He then asked me which of those traits Sasuke embodied, which was none. I then took it a step further and looked for people with those traits and found Naruto and Ichigo-sensei himself. I even figured out about Naruto's burden, the Kyuubi, but that doesn't matter to me and I wanted to tell him that. But before I could say anything to Naruto or confess to him, he left on a mission to Wave Country. When he came back, Hinata found him first and that's when we found him in that clothes shop with his new Oni-chan," Ino told her mother. Given how much her little girl was in pain, Akari let out a deep sigh. Yamanakas were always extremely sensitive to their emotions, and despite Ino's best efforts to conceal it, she had fallen deeply in love with Naruto after discovering his burden. The person who had loved him for a long time, Hinata Hyuga, had now won his heart after Ino finally saw him for who he truly was and loved him for it. As she returned to the kitchen to start dinner, she said, "I don't know what to tell you, dear. It's hard, the one you love being just out of reach. Maybe you should talk with Hinata-chan? Maybe she can help you with your feelings. Ino was naturally thoughtful about the concept. On the day the teams were formed, she had witnessed Hinata become irate, and the Hyuga maiden had almost torn Sakura's face apart for a mistaken comment. She declared that she would no longer tuck her tail in and would no longer hold herself back. If her boyfriend was liked by someone else, how would she respond? The pictures of what might occur that were running through her mind were not pleasant. As she walked out the door and toward the Hyuga compound, she forged her resolve. Hyuga compound. When Ino eventually reached the Hyuga compound gate, she was strolling down the road into the higher clan district, close to the old Uchiha district. She cleared her throat as she approached the branch house guards. As her mother had taught her to do when interacting with the Hyuga, she declared in a firm voice, "I am here to speak with Lady Hinata." Before he spoke, the male guard gave her a thorough examination. He inquired, "Who calls upon Lady Hinata?" She braced herself for any potential response as she declared, "Tell her that Ino Yamanaka wishes to talk with her about something very important." Both guards bowed their heads. As he opened the gate to let her in, he replied, "I shall escort you to Lady Hinata's quarters, Lady Ino." Being referred to as Lady Ino was unfamiliar to her. He led her to Hinata's room after they entered the compound. She whistled in awe as she saw the opulent Hyuga mansion for the first time on the way there. As she and her escort finally stopped, she remarked to herself, "So, this is how the upper crust lives, nice." He excused himself and bowed formally, saying, "Here is Lady Hinata's room. Please enjoy your stay." As she knocked on Hinata's door, Ino let out a loud gulp. From within, Hinata's voice said, "Who is it?" She declared, "It's me, Ino Yamanaka." As soon as she finished speaking, she could feel the temperature drop significantly. With a cold tone that made Ino wince, she said, "Oh, what did you want to talk about?" She seems to have had a rough day, and she's still quite upset about what Forehead and I did and said that day. Man, oh man. This is not a good idea. As she considered her next move, she thought. She answered, I came to talk to you about Naruto-kun. She was met with silence, which persisted for a short while before Hinata opened the door in response. She curtly told her, "Come in." As soon as Ino entered the Hyuga girl's room, she saw a picture that had to be an unstaged photo of a younger Naruto in a heart-shaped frame. This gave Ino a little smile and gave her a little boost of confidence. Her tone was clipped as she asked, "What is it that you wish to talk to me about, Ino-san?" As I said before, I wanted to talk with you about Naruto-kun. With her eyes narrowed in suspicion, she said, "Since when was he been Naruto-kun to you, Ino-san? I thought that you and Haruno-san hated him and couldn't care less about what happened to him." Although Ino couldn't blame her for being a little suspicious and hostile toward her, she refused to change her sincere feelings for the blonde boy. "He became that to me when I realized what I was throwing away. Ichigo Sensei taught me to open my eyes, and when I did, I saw Naruto-kun for who he really is, a very kind and caring person." The mention of Ichigo, who initially gave Hinata the courage to ask Naruto out, caused her eyes to widen. He appears to have assisted her as well. Inquiringly, "You know Ichigo, sensei?" she asked. Ino became a little more alert. In order to facilitate communication, she had discovered areas of agreement with her. "Yeah." He approached Asuma Sensei about some futon jutsu, and they made an exchange for teaching my team some of his taijutsu. He actually got Shikamaru to be less lazy and made Choji proud of being thick. As for how he helped me, you know how a lot of us dieted for that rat Sasuke. Everyone tried to get me to stop, but I was stubborn and thought that Sasuke liked skinny women. After training one day, he asked me to walk with him through the village, stopping at a dango stand. Once there, he asked me what kind of guy that I liked, and I told him that he had to be kind, funny, smile a lot, and like a girl for who she really is. Hinata was immediately engrossed in the story and eager to learn more. He then asked me which of these traits Sasuke embodied, and that threw me for a loop. For once, I had nothing to say to defend my ways. He walked me home and told me that he had confidence that I would figure it out. During the week my team had off, I studied how Sasuke treated everyone and saw that he was absolutely awful to everyone. He was rude, arrogant, and demanded everything to be handed to him. Hinata's already terrible opinion of the last Uchiha was being further eroded by what she was hearing. However, she developed an even more favorable opinion of Ichigo Sensei. I then took that same idea and studied the people around me and found a few people who had those traits. One of them was Ichigo Sensei, who saved me from myself. Without him, I would have kept on hurting the people who would have truly cared for me and wound up like Sakura would have had Naruto not been her teammate, battered and alone. The other was Naruto himself. He was always very kind to everyone, despite how everyone treats him. He even tries to help out his teammates, but they always have a hurtful remark for him. When Hinata heard that, she gasped. She was aware of Sasuke's previous unkind treatment of Sakura, but it was inappropriate and utterly disgusting for a member of a higher clan. The tall blonde made her feel the same way about Ichigo. They both enjoyed what they saw on that front, which was like getting a preview of Naruto's future self. I tried to find him so that I could apologize for the way I treated him for so long, but he was always so difficult to track down. Then he left on that mission to Wave Country. When he came back, I tried to find him again, but when I found him, she continued to cry. She concluded, her tears unbidden, he told me that you had already asked him out. The former fangirl's display of emotion startled Hinata. She was only able to make one reasonable deduction from this. She whispered, Ino-san. You like Naruto-kun, don't you? To the blonde with the ponytail. Ino didn't even need to speak or act. Her dejected look and faint sobs were sufficient response for her. With her, she believed she could take a chance. Careful not to be overheard, she whispered, do you know about his darkest secret? Ino was fully aware of what she was discussing. You mean about the Kyuubi? I know, but I don't care. Naruto-kun is Naruto-kun, and that's good enough for me. In addition to avoiding the death penalty, Hinata received the response she had been seeking. It's clear that Ino had a deep and sincere love for him, unlike her fangirl feelings for the Uchiha. It was very similar to her own. Unfortunately, Hinata would never consider sharing him or even parting with him, at least not for Ino. She had the right to be a little selfish with his affections because, in theory, she had loved him for years. At odds with the girl she was 4 months ago, she said with a hint of finality, Ino-san. I love him, too. I love him so much, but I can tell that you do, too. However, I'm not going to give him up nor will I share him with anyone. I have loved him ever since we were little and I am entitled to be a little selfish in that regard. Hinata's conscience was somewhat burdened by Ino's tears, which continued to flow. I can allow you to get your feelings off of your chest, allow you some form of closure to allow you to move on. It's the least I can do for you since you knew about the Kyuubi and kept it to yourself. She modified. Ino grinned. At least she was being given the opportunity to open up and confess. She would still be his friend, and this would at least give her a fresh start. The two girls quickly departed for Naruto's apartment after resolving that. The apartment complex in Naruto. When the two girls eventually arrived at the top floor, they navigated through all of the vacant apartments to a small plate that read, Uzumaki, on the door and knocked. When he didn't respond for 5 minutes, they assumed he wasn't home until Ichigo, Haku, and Naruto cheerfully paraded up the stairs. Ichigo greeted them cheerfully, oh, hey there, girls, while they were all still dressed as shinobi. And then Naruto turned and saw them too. He said, hey Hina. Hi, Ino. Chan. What brings you guys here? And both of them smiled encouragingly. Naru-kun, we have some to talk to you about. Something very important, Hinata stated to him. Ichigo said, well, you all are welcome to talk at my place if you want. Following their acceptance, the girls filed into the somewhat larger apartment. Although it was only partially completed, it appeared that they were working to merge the two apartments into a single, large apartment. In Ichigo's living room, they all took a seat and spoke their minds. The girls exchanged glances before Hinata began to explain the situation on an invisible cue. As she approached to whisper in his ear, she said softly, Naruto-kun, Ino-san wants to tell you something that's been bothering her. The good-hearted Hyuga girl begged, please, be gentle, she knows, but she didn't care about your burden. Be kind to her and set her down softly. Ino started to tell him what she wanted to say, and Naruto nodded. Naruto-kun, do you remember what I said when I apologized the other day? Yeah, I do. What's wrong, Ino-chan? She started by telling him how Ichigo helped her overcome her fangirl issue and see things and people for who they truly are, free from Sasuke's influence. Well, over the past couple of months, she said. That brings me to say this. I kinda developed a crush on you, she acknowledged. Naruto was taken aback, but not as much as he had anticipated. Before Ichigo clarified what had transpired before her arrival in the village, Haku was a little perplexed. She nodded in comprehension. Before responding to her, Naruto inhaled deeply and exhaled. I'm flattered, Ino-chan, I really am. But, I'm with Hinata. She loves me, always has. I love her just as much. I'm sorry that I can't return your feelings, but we can still be good friends, can't we? He asked her honestly. He's making a lot of effort to be considerate. It will be difficult, but I'll give him to you, Hinata. As she answered his declination, she thought, "You deserve him much more than I do." She put her arms firmly around his neck. Before turning to Hinata, she gave him a friendly peck on the cheek and said, "Thank you for giving me the chance to tell you, even if you don't feel the same way about me. Being your friend is good enough for me. You're very lucky, Hinata. What I wouldn't give for someone like him, what a lot of girls wouldn't give." She comforted the blonde girl by taking her in her arms and saying, "I know, Ino-san. I thank Kami and Ichigo Sensei for giving me the courage to finally ask him out. I've watched him for years, so I know exactly how lucky I am." Naruto inquired about Hinata's day with her team after the girl had calmed down, but was met with a growl of annoyance. They became enraged when Hinata told them about Kiba's actions and remarks. Ichigo came very close to solving the issue. For not applying more pressure to the jerk, Haku was berating herself. Both Ino and Naruto wanted to go down to his place and knock him out at Ino for Kiba being such a creep, and Naruto for him pursuing his girlfriend. Hinata noticed that it was growing late as she glanced at the clock on the kitchen wall. The two young kunoichi left for home after exchanging hugs and saying goodbye. Ichigo had his worries, but Naruto and Haku both yawned and retired for the night. For an unknown reason, Hinata's story of what had transpired earlier that day unnerved him, so he fled into the night and followed the girls to ensure their safety. The streets of Konoha, because the complex was a little off the usual route and closer to the town's edge, Ino and Hinata were making their way back into the town proper. While muttering about how unfair it was that the Dobi took two attractive girls for himself and left no elite like him, Kiba Inuzuka was following them, unseen, and a few yards back. His best chance was to ambush Hinata and persuade her to see things his way because he truly wanted to experience what Naruto was in for first. Ino would merely be a bonus. Ichigo was providing overwatch as well, keeping a close eye on the two girls until they arrived home safely. He saw a figure stalking them as soon as they were inside the village proper, edging closer and closer as it attempted to pass them in order to cut them off. "Oh no, you don't," he thought as he raced to the stalker's location, following him even closer without being noticed. Finally gaining the girls' attention, Kiba made the decision to approach them. Leering at them with a twisted smile, he emerged from the shadows into the moonlight. "Why would two fine-looking girls like you be doing out without a real man to escort you? The Dobi too much of a pussy to walk you home? Lucky me?" Hinata said to him in a stern and icy manner, "I thought that I told you I'm not interested in you, Kiba. Go away." With a very eerie tone, he said, "Ooh, feisty. I want you to put up a good struggle. Makes the ending much more enjoyable." As he moved closer to the pair, his snarling stare was starting to frighten them. With little to no impact, Ino growled at him, "Back off, dog breath. I'm warning you." His master was too overcome by hormones and lust to back off, even though Akamaru was growling and barking at him to stop. At last, he became irritated and snatched the puppy and tossed him aside. He sneered as he lunged at them, only to have a strong water blast slam the would-be rapist into a concrete wall. "Now, let's have a tat to see of what you girls got to offer me. If I like it, I'll just have to take some more. Not like the Dobi can do anything about it." When the girls turned to see who could have silently used such a strong jutsu, they saw Ichigo, with a frown on his face and his hand reaching toward Kiba's mangled body. "Ichigo Sensei," the girls exclaimed, giving him a firm embrace. Kiba's actions were too eerie for them to respond appropriately, even if they were both kunoichi and trained to fight. A pair of cage bunshin were made by Ichigo. The first one nodded and ran off to find the red-eyed sensei. "I want you to go get Kurenai and Hiyashi Hyuga to meet us at the Inuzuka estate. Tell them what happened." The other clone nodded and followed his instructions. "You, go and fetch Inoichi and Asuma. Tell them what happened here and have them meet us at the Inuzuka estate." His gaze shifted to the girls. As he threw the battered Inuzuka over his shoulder and Hinata picked up Akamaru, who was actually attempting to stop his master, he told them, "Now, I'll escort you two to the Inuzuka estate and let you tell Kiba's mother what he's be up to. I've sent out shadow clones to inform your sensei and parents, who will be joining us there shortly." He encased them in a shell of water and transported them to the Inuzuka compound when they were prepared to leave. Inuzuka compound. Ichigo and his small group reached the front gates of the Inuzuka clan's compound in a tiny water tornado. As they waited for the others to arrive, the Ino and Hinata were a little uncomfortable being so near the clan of the person who attempted to rape them, but his simple presence made them feel much more at ease. Kurenai and Asuma emerged in a cloud of smoke 5 minutes late, followed closely by Inoichi in his pajamas. Ichigo let the gate guards see who he was holding when Hiyashi appeared a short while later. The guard growled, "What have you done to the air?" but was intimidated by the combined ki of the 5 Junin, including Hiyashi Hyuga and 2 of the clan heads. Ichigo calmly but menacingly told the guards, "We would like to see Sume Inuzuka. This is regarding the actions of her son." His aura of power and malice roiled off him in distinct waves. As he rushed to let them in and led them to the clan Alpha study, the guard nearly immediately gave way. The guard rapped on the door of the study. "Sume. Sama. There are people here to see you." From the other side of the door came a gruff voice. "Yeah? Who is it? It's late." He prepared for the outburst by telling his leader, Hiyashi, "Sama, Inoichi. Sama, Yuahi.san. Sarutobi.san. And Suzumiya.san are here. They have Kiba with them." She yelled, "What? Send them in, now." The guard let them in by opening the door. The tall blonde with her only son slung over his shoulder was now the target of an angry Sume Inuzuka, who sat behind her desk and snarled at him before flinging him roughly to the ground. "What is the meaning of this? What have you done to my son?" she asked. Ichigo growled angrily, followed by scowls and outward displays of extreme rage from the 2 other sensei and the parents of the aforementioned girls, who are also clan heads. "If you will allow me to, I will tell you. Your son has been stalking Hinata Hyuga and Ino Yamanaka this whole night with the intent to rape them to get what he wants. He feels slighted that they chose another over him, so he chose this disgusting course of action. He is lucky that I chose not to punish him more for his violations." Inoichi took a step forward. He growled in a tone that would have been appropriate given their location, saying, "That little punk would have hurt my daughter just to get his rocks off. I will be seeking some kind of reparation to amend for this heinous offense." Hiyashi waited for him to stop before continuing. "I recommend that you administer a fitting punishment, considering the alternative to letting your foolish son and heir start a clan war that you cannot hope to win. When my daughter says no, she means no. Your clan is very fortunate that Suzumiya.san stopped the boy before anything happened to my eldest daughter and clan heiress. Otherwise blood would have been spilled tonight." He stated this in the same firm yet hazardous manner in which Ichigo had addressed the guards. Then Asuma stepped forward. "I don't really take kindly to some privileged punk thinking he can take forced liberties with my student. That boy was lucky that I wasn't the one to catch him or he'd be missing a limb." Kurenai realized it was her moment to take charge. "I should have seen this coming after he ceaselessly harassed Hinata in an attempt to make her go out with him. He started getting more physical after she and Naruto Uzumaki became an official couple, but I never thought that he would stoop so low as to attempt rape. I am deeply ashamed of him, and if he is not suitably punished, then I will have him kicked off of my team and sent back to the academy, or possibly removed from the shinobi program altogether." Sume's head hung down in embarrassment. Her own son, who will be the clan's heir and alpha in the future, will rape others to obtain what he desires. Okay, he'd be getting his. A young woman with long brown hair pulled back into a ponytail and the clan markings on her cheeks rushed in as the study door suddenly flew open. "I heard the yelling. Mother, what's happening?" she cried, suspiciously glancing at the other people in the room. Ichigo took the initiative to describe the incident and the reason her runt of a brother was unconscious on the ground. She and her mother formally apologized for Kiba's actions on his behalf after he explained, and she was just as incensed as the others at what he had done. The girls accepted them despite their parents' lack of acceptance. Kiba's older sister realized she didn't know Ichigo after giving him another look. Innocently, she asked him, "Who are you? I don't really remember seeing you around before." She had a lot of questions about this enigmatic Junin, and she was particularly curious about how he had intimidated her mother. Since they had expressed regret to them, Ichigo had become much more composed. He introduced himself to her as Ichigo Suzumiya, Junin Sensei. As she introduced herself, she had a small smile on her face. "My name's Hana Inuzuka. Chunin and veterinary specialist," she responded. Her mother could see that she was growing interested in this man. As she looked at the parents and other sensei, Sume thought, "We might not be in so much trouble after all." The Inuzuka mistress calmed the adults down by saying, "I am very sorry for what he tried to do. I honestly thought that I taught him better than that, but he's taking after his father and that's no laughing matter. It's an issue that I am glad you all brought to my attention and rest assured that I'll deal with him, personally." Kurenai turned to watch Hana try to flirt with Ichigo, and she could feel warning signs ringing in her mind. "Are you attempting to horn in on Anko's man?" The Inuzuka maiden drooped with disappointment as Ichigo graciously declined Hana's offer of a date and informed her that he was currently seeing someone. That's going to be hazardous to her health if Anko finds out, she thought. The adults and two girls filed outside the compound, leaving Kiba to his mother's care, but before they left, Hiyashi and Inoichi wanted to say something to Ichigo. "Suzumiya.san, I just want to say thank you for doing what you did. Had you not, a clan war would have erupted and caused a civil war within Konoha, one which we can ill afford. Should you need any assistance, I will do my best to help you in return for this deed." The leader of Hyuga thanked him and showed reverence. Inoichi gave him a shoulder clap. "Thank you for saving my little girl once again. My offer is the same as his, my clan is now your ally." Asuma and Kurenai also expressed their gratitude, but the girls gave him something special. Before they all departed, they each gave him a thank you peck on the cheek after requesting that he stoop to their level. As is his custom, he chose to abandon himself in a cyclone of water after they had left. Hana watched him go, fascinated, from the shadows. "Taken? We'll investigate that." As she went to bed for the night, she thought, "This is the type of man I want for my mate." The Inuzuka compound on the following morning when Kiba woke up, he was in his room with a splitting headache and Akamaru was not there. He awkwardly got out of bed and started to move around the house before running into an elderly clan member. The woman gave Kiba a savage snarl instead of a polite greeting, huffing and turning away from him before leaving. One of the on-duty guards passed him last night and experienced the same thing. After glaring at the air, he left. Bewildered, he headed to the dining room to find his sister and mother waiting for him, and they didn't appear to be pleased to see him. With her key fixed on him, the Inukua matriarchy commanded, "Kiba, sit down, now." As he forced himself to sit in front of his visibly irate mother and sister, the dog boy's stomach felt as though someone had packed it with lead. "Boy, you are lucky to even be alive right now. If the Anbu or Hyuga had caught you last night, they would have killed you outright instead of bringing you before me alive. Now, what do you have to say for yourself?" Sume said sternly. "I just saw something I wanted and I was gonna take it. That Haku chick nearly broke my arm when I asked her out, and now that Dobi Naruto took Hinata away from me and that Ino chick, too. Why does he get all the hot chicks and not me? It's all his fault." He argued until Hana struck him in the face. Hana got in his face and roared, "So, we're things now, huh?" before going on. "Has it ever occurred to you that mother and I are both women? Besides, these girls want nothing to do with you because you're a sexist jerk." Though it didn't fully register, Kiba flinched away from the ass chewing his older sister was giving him. "Whatever, Hana. You're just jealous that dad always liked me more and took me aside all that time." Sume was tired of hearing about her ex-husband. He had 2 illegitimate children as a result of being caught sleeping with and sexually abusing young women. Sume regretted marrying him, but not her children, because he was a lecher. After he attempted to attack a Chunin team that included the now snake mistress Anko Midarashi, the girl herself delivered the fatal blow, and he was exiled from the clan. "Kiba, do not talk about that man in front of me. The fact that you are taking after him is bad enough. Should this happen again, banishment from the clan won't be your only problem. You almost started a clan war with the Hyuga and the Yamanaka that we could never have hoped to win, especially with that tall Junin backing them up. He could have killed us all at any time if he wanted, and he could have killed you. Next time, I'll disown you and let him do it," Sume said sternly. He whimpered, "Wah. But I'm the heir. I'm supposed to be the alpha. A woman can't be the alpha." The matriarchy screamed, "Hana will be the alpha. You forget that I am the alpha right now and I am a woman." Kiba growled and was ready to attack, but Kuromaru, his mother's partner, hit him in the side. He was pinned to the ground by the enormous black dog, whose sharp teeth gleamed in the sunlight. The big dog growled as he released Kiba. "I'd advise against that, pup. If you were anyone else, I'd have already ripped your throat out. She's the alpha for a reason, whelp. Do well to remember it." Kiba frowned as he turned to face Akamaru, who was seated there. He shouted at his dog, "Akamaru, why didn't you back me up?" The little white dog growled and backed away, glaring at him. Kiba questioned the puppy, "What the hell's wrong with you, anyway?" With Akamaru curled in her arms and her Haimaru triplets huddled in front of her protectively, Hana responded, "Akamaru doesn't trust you anymore, runt. Nobody here does after what you tried to do to the Hyuga girl and that blonde girl." Kiba became increasingly irate until he hurried away. As he fled, he screamed, "Nobody ever lets me do or have anything." In frustration, Sume buried her face in her hands. She mumbled softly, lamenting the disgrace Kiba had brought to their clan, "That brat. He's taking after Hideo too much. I thought that I got that bastard's teachings out of his head, but I couldn't have been more wrong." A month later, they'd gone by a month in a flash. During that time, a lot of things, both good and bad, can occur. Depending on one's perspective, it varied for Team 7. This new Team 7 was a blessing for Naruto. Instead of being pushed aside for the Uchiha, as Kakashi did to him, he was genuinely learning something. Sakura had stopped yelling at him and hitting him. She even started asking Sasuke out less frequently until she abruptly stopped a few days ago. During their training sessions, she was treating him more kindly and as a friend, and he was helping her with her chakra capacity and stamina while she was helping him with his control. There was a struggle for control going on inside her head. Both of her personalities were fighting for their existence. Her fangirl persona was still utterly fixated on Sasuke and wanted Naruto dead, regardless of the means. True Sakura, also known as Inner Sakura, desired to be friends with Naruto and wanted to show any affection for the Uchiha. Although she knew it wasn't her fault, she was devastated to hear that Hinata had already taken Naruto's heart. She promised to let her have him and admitted defeat. Hinata, after all, deserved Naruto more because she had loved him for years. All she wanted to do now was focus on strengthening herself and her teammates. Ichigo was therefore a sensei's dream come true. He was very kind and patient with her, but when necessary, alike during one of Sasuke and Naruto's little arguments, he would be harsh. As he helped her on her journey to become a true kunoichi, IS grew to genuinely admire the man. Without Kakashi at his side, Sasuke wasn't enjoying himself much with this new squad. Ichigo demanded that everyone complete the training as a team, with no one instructor being more knowledgeable than the others. The last Uchiha was furious that, unlike Kakashi, this man wasn't giving him jutsu like candy. He was even more incensed when Ichigo refused to allow him to spar with his Sharingan and his precious eyes were unable to replicate his special abilities. Sasuke began using moves outside of the Goken style one day during a spar. Because Ichigo had previously sparred with Guy and was familiar with the stances and movements, it was blatantly obvious. Before Sasuke tried to use that style again, he called him aside and instructed him to go ask Guy for permission. Infuriated that he would need to request authorization to employ such a potent taijutsu technique, Sasuke claimed that Kakashi had taught him how to do it. Ichigo gave a headshake. The Goken style is a dojo-governed style that the master of the style, one made a Guy, should teach you personally. The only other rightful user of Goken in this village is Rock Lee, Guy's apprentice and member of his genin team. Kakashi stole that style from him and he has already been dealt with. He stated this to the pompous young man. Sasuke tried to approach the council to get what he wanted, but the civilian council had no authority over the shinobi, and the shinobi council informed him, just as Ichigo had, that only those who were personally trained and approved by Guy were permitted to use that style. Furious, he tried to go and force Guy to teach him the technique. Guy just laughed in his face while staring at him. He said to Sasuke, "If you can defeat my disciple, then I will consider it." Sasuke readily agreed, believing that he could win thanks to his Sharingan. Rock Lee, the dead last from the year before, was his opponent. Any hopes that Lee would be the last to die were mercilessly dashed when the fight began, as the odd-looking boy threw him around like a rag doll. Since Boy Lee was moving too quickly for his eyes to follow, he kept his Sharingan active the entire time. The match ended with a jubilant Lee and a defeated Sasuke, who crept back to his clan's compound to mope. Haku took a placement test and had her skills evaluated. To find out where she stood among the Konoha ninja, she had to face one of each rank. Although she had a difficult time, she was ultimately vanquished by an Anbu with the codename Neko. A barrage of ordinary senbon laced with a paralysis poison was used by Haku to begin the match. One of them grazed Neko and partially shut down her left arm. Neko retaliated with a low-powered Hosenka, showering Haku with fireballs, but she displayed her speed and agility by dancing her way through them and getting past her defenses. She paid a price for this display, though, as Neko wasted no time in testing her. The match ended with the Sesen Anbu holding a kunai to her throat after she was finally exhausted from the constant barrage of blows. Her strategies, use of jutsu, and physical prowess were evaluated by the judges as part of her evaluation. Because she also had medical training, they ultimately determined that she deserved the rank of Tokubetsu Junin. She was rated as a combat medic, much like Tsunade of the Sannin was in her prime, and one of the few combat medics in Konoha overall. As part of her new responsibilities, she made rounds at the hospital when she wasn't on missions. Before the Elder Council learned of Hinata's relationship with Naruto, everything with the Hyugas was going smoothly. Naruto had to leave because they thought he would damage their reputations, bring them down, and force them to change their way of life. They contended that he was a useless orphan, the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, and the Dobi of his year. Hinata and Hiyashi retorted that Naruto was far from useless because the Sandaime viewed him as a grandson and he was Wave Country's hero. They also pointed out that Naruto was responsible for Hinata's quick ascent in confidence and skill. As the Elder Council reached a decision, their argument was ignored. They suggested that Hanabi become the heiress and Hinata get engaged to another clan heir in order to improve ties in the village. Hinata vehemently hated both the Inukua and the Uchiha, which were their options. Two of the elders miraculously changed their minds when it came time for a vote. They gave Naruto and his beneficial impact on Hinata a lot of thought. Would it really be that horrible to watch her succeed and feel content? Hinata's grandmother, Hiromi Hyuga, voted against the proposal to marry her to either party, thinking, the boy has close ties to the Hokage himself, and with what I've been hearing about his recent and disturbingly fast rise in skill and strength, becoming a future Hokage won't be beyond him, especially if what I've been hearing about his sensei is true. The other elders urged her to change her mind and opposed her vote, but the elderly woman refused to back down. I refuse to let this foolishness to befall my granddaughter. In recent times, she has shown much promise and drive, already proving herself to be Neji's equal in sparring. Naruto Uzumaki and his sensei, one Ichigo Suzumiya, are the ones who unlocked her potential and helped her find her strength. Taking them away from her would be disastrous, not only to her but to ourselves as well. Hito, another elder, gave her a questioning look. The elderly woman smirked when he asked, why would this impact us as well? His looks, for one. He bears a striking resemblance to the Yondaime, young Naruto as well. His abilities are mysterious, but I have eyewitness reports from a recent mission to Wave Country, where he was granted Anbu status, that these abilities is extremely powerful and elemental in nature. It was reported that he was using Suiten and Futon Jutsu without hand seals, just bending the air and water around him to his will. Another point is his ability to teach, if Naruto Uzumaki's unbelievable progress is any indication. Their strong resemblance to each other suggests that they may be related, and if we allow Hinata to continue with her relationship with young Naruto, we will gain a powerful ally, one that is immune to the effects of the Sharingan. Hiromi told the council. Hito and several other elders started discussing what they had just heard with one another. They came to a decision after some time. We of the Elder Council have reached a decision. We shall test this Ichigo Suzumiya and Naruto Uzumaki by trial of combat. Young Naruto will face Sasuke Uchiha then Kiba Inuzuka, while Ichigo will face two Junin of our choosing. We shall inform the Hokage of this decision, as well as all parties concerned. The bout shall take place in 1 month's time to give the fighters a chance to train and prepare. The elders made a decision. The way they were teasing her grandchild's future and entangling strangers in their arguments repulsed Hiromi. Because Naruto and Ichigo had earned every ounce of the trust that was placed in them, Hinata was prepared to put her faith in them. For the sake of his daughter, Hiyashi could only hope Naruto would prevail in the face of such adversity. The way things were going didn't sit well with Neji. He was on the verge of killing the dog Nin himself after learning of Kiba's attempted rape. The trial and the engagements had been communicated to all parties over the course of a week. Sasuke was licking his chops at their considerable wealth and prestige, as well as their trade secrets, while Kiba was chomping at the bit to have Hinata in his bed and under his thumb. When Ichigo and Naruto learned of this, they were furious that the council would treat them this way after they had achieved happiness. It did not sit well with the Hokage either. When he agreed to fight on the girl's behalf, Anko, who was angry that they were making Ichigo fight their battles, gave in. I hope you know what you're doing. The Hyugas aren't ones to play fair when they see something they want. Be careful, she said to him with worry. Ichigo held her close and said, I will, Anko-chan, I promise. It's time for me to pay back some of my debt to you, Gurren, he thought. I hope you're watching. Jiraiya of the Sannin, Naruto's godfather and former pupil, had received word from Sarutobi about the boy's condition. He was informed in the letter that he would receive a thorough debriefing when he arrived. When Jiraiya got to the village the following day, he went directly to the Hokage's office, where Sarutobi was waiting. Ichigo himself had given him permission to tell him his secret, and he did. The Toad Sage was stunned into silence when the old man finished. He is the ancestor of Kushina and Minato. He thought incredulously, this is impossible, but it happened and I can't deny the results. As he explained to him how Kakashi ruined Naruto's training and gave preference to the Uchiha, Sarutobi said, Jiraiya, I would like you to hang around for a while this time. If you recall Minato's students, you know who Naruto's original sensei was. Minato would be so ashamed of him. Minato taught his student all equally and fairly, but Kakashi was a fool who just didn't get it. He never really desired to work with a team, but run it and call the shots. That was the problem with these so-called prodigies. They think that they are above the rules half the time, or they get so single-minded that they screw up everything they touch. That Obito kid's noble gift only served to inflate his ego and drove away his other teammate, Rin. That girl had a good head on her shoulders. It's a pity that she left with Tsunade and Shizune. She could have looked after Naruto for us. I guess I could try to track them down with my toads and tell them about Naruto. He told his old sensei, but he was pensive about it. Jiraiya sighed as she saw the expression. Sensei, She deserves to know that her godson lives and will need her help, he continued. Sarutobi gave in. He jotted down a brief note. Fine. I will send out Enbu and Oinen to search for her and deliver this message to her. I can only hope that she will want to return. He was hopeful. The Hyuga selected their 2 Junin after a brief search. Kakashi Hitaki was one of them. The other was Kaseki Hyuga, a Hyuga who was regarded as their best fighter after Hiashi. The council gave Kakashi permission to take Sasuke on as a temporary student. Kakashi made the most of it by allowing Sasuke to use his new Sharingan to copy nearly every jutsu he was familiar with. He soon started teaching him deadly skills, like his Chidori, which is a less powerful but still lethal variant of his own Reikiri. As a result, Team 7 was formally disbanded for the duration. Sakura was perplexed that her 2 teammates of the Sensei and the ex-Sensei were essentially fighting for Hinata's survival. She secretly hoped Ichigo and Naruto would lose so that Naruto could be released once more, but IS wished them luck and was determined to support them completely. Ichigo rode Sakura and Naruto a little harder with their taijutsu, but he still trained them equally. Naruto, be careful out there. I won't have my nicer teammate out of commission and have to deal with that ass Sasuke on my own, Sakura said to him. Kurenai in particular organized the other sensei to help Naruto. Guy taught Naruto how to fight the Sharingan without being copied, and Asuma taught him a few more advanced futon jutsu. Kurenai gave the boy and sensei her blessings, but she was unable to teach him any of her genjutsu because he lacked the necessary control over chakras. He learned more kanai, a defensive doden jutsu, and another suiden jutsu from Anko. With his elemental abilities, Ichigo already possessed a huge ace in the hole, but Guy taught him how to battle Kakashi's Sharingan. To make the eye unsure of where to look, the area was flooded with chakra. This was ideal for those with enormous reserves, as only they could possibly pull it off. Hiashi wished them luck but was unable to assist them in any way. Haku answered the door when Jiraiya discovered the 2 at their shared apartment. When the old pervert saw the Ice Maiden, he immediately went into Ichi mode. He said, "Well, hello there pretty young lady," with great excitement. As usual, she asked him courteously, who exactly are you, sir?" Jiraiya assumed the pose of Kabuki. As the weirdo concluded his Kabuki dance, he flashed what he thought was a debonair smile that only made Haku laugh. "I am so glad you asked that question. I am feared by my enemies and loved by the ladies. I am known as the Holy Sage of Mount Myoboku. My name can hush a crying child and give the ladies a thrill. I am known as Lord Jiraiya," he exclaimed. A voice called out behind her, "Hey Haku-chan, who's at the door?" "I don't really know. He calls himself Jiraiya and he said he's looking for you in Naru-chan," she responded. Ichigo approached the entrance. "I'm Ichigo Suzumiya. What can we do for you?" he inquired. Jiraiya merely explained that Sarutobi made Naruto's eyes wide by telling him the truth about himself. The white-haired sage wilted slightly under Haku's glare and upbraiding. "Where were you all this time? He needed you and you were off gallivanting about." Haku reprimanded her. Sorry, I'm here now, aren't I? Now, where is the little scamp?" replied Jiraiya. "He's taking a slight nap from training this afternoon. I assume the old man told you about the situation with the Hyuga," Ichigo responded. Jiraiya snarled, "Yes, that and about that bastard Kakashi." When the copy nin was brought up, Ichigo and Haku both frowned. "Don't tell Naruto about me. I'll do that myself when the time is right. Although, you should tell him about what you were to him. He needs us, especially now." As he left the area, he said to them, "I couldn't agree more. I'll come back when the scamp is up and about. Yane." Jiraiya gave Naruto and Sakura the shock of their lives when he showed up the following day during one of the team's training sessions and introduced himself as his godfather. Sakura was shocked to learn that Tsunade of the Sannin was her teammate's godmother and that someone so significant and well-known was also his godparent. He took a scroll out of his pouch and said, "Naruto, my boy, I've come to teach you about something that can help you." He told the already shocked Genin, "I can teach you about seal Fuinjutsu, which I am a master of, as well as the teacher of the Yondaime." Before continuing, Sakura was so appreciative that he even let her participate in the seal training. He showed them a seal that would greatly ease their battle with the Sharingan, since they had little time for anything significant. It was a unique seal that prevented the Sharingan from copying and rendered it completely ineffective in battle, eliminating a significant advantage. To become immune to the Dujutsu of thieves, Naruto and Ichigo would simply need to wear the seal on their person on the day of the match. In just a few days, Sakura demonstrated her ability to pick things up quickly, mastering the seal with Ichigo and Naruto in tow. But in their free time, The two teams' 7 students researched and experimented with seals on their own, creating everything from basic smoke tags to stink bombs and seals for personal storage. As part of a team building activity, Naruto and Sakura joined forces to create a unique seal tag that would combine a flashbang and a stink bomb. They eventually succeeded after a lot of trial and error and unintentionally contaminating Naruto's apartment complex and her basement. This new tag you can use to both blind Sasuke and disrupt Kiba's sense of smell. Just wrap it around the handle of a kunai like a normal tag and use it like you would an explosive tag. Sakura said cheerfully to him. She was becoming quite interested in the concept of Fuinjutsu. The Sasuke craze, as Ichigo and Haku called it, was dead and buried, and it appealed to her analytical mind like a giant puzzle. Throughout the month, she and Naruto developed a close friendship and worked as a team. She was befriended by Hinata, who also came to forgive her for her previous transgressions against Naruto. The Chunin examination hall more quickly than they would have liked, the duel day had come. To witness this epic battle, the Chunin exam stadium was packed with nearly half of the village, the Shinobi Council and the Civilian Council. Their parents had informed them of the situation, and the other students from Naruto and Hinata had come to support him. While Ino was enthusiastically supporting Naruto and Ichigo, Shoji and Shikamaru were upset by it, and Shino appeared unconcerned, but it bothered him. Haku was sitting with Sakura's parents and the Ichirakus, who had come out to support Sakura. For Hinata's sake, they genuinely hoped the boys would prevail. Sakura and Jiraiya had just finished giving the two fighters their anti-Sharingan seals and gave them a final motivational speech down in the tunnel that led to the stadium. As she hurried up into the stands, she gave the two a warm embrace and said, "I know you guys can do this. I've got faith in you. Naruto, sensei, good luck." He gave them a cheesy smile and a thumbs up before vanishing into the VIP box, where the councils and the Hokage were seated, and saying, "Well brats, I've given you the tools. Show me what you can do with them, make me proud." Ichigo and Naruto nodded to one another, indicating that they were prepared. He teleported Naruto and his opponent into the middle of the stadium arena, where they were awaiting them, after giving that signal. When Sarutobi cleared his throat, the entire arena turned to watch. The reaction to his announcement was mixed. "Welcome, one and all, to the bout that will decide the fate of one Hinata Hyuga. In this corner, fighting one Hinata's behalf, we have Ichigo Suzumiya and Naruto Uzumaki," he said. They received a standing ovation from the Shinobi Council and their friends, but they were jeered and cursed by most of the civilians. "And in this corner, we have Sasuke Uchiha and Kiba Inuzuka, both fighting for Hinata's hand in marriage, with Kaseki Hyuga and Kakashi Hitaki taking on Ichigo Suzumiya to determine his worthiness to the Hyuga clan as an ally. First, we shall have our younger combatants fight. Everybody else, clear the arena so we can start." Ichigo touched Naruto on the shoulder. "You ready?" "Born ready," Naruto answered, maintaining his game face. As he bounded out of the arena, he assured Naruto, "Do it up, kiddo." Kiba sneered at the blonde, saying, "Hey Dobi, after I humiliate you, I'll take real good care of your woman for you." "Ready to lose, loser? You could never beat me, and now that I have my Sharingan, I'll make you into just a memory," Sasuke continued. Naruto didn't even flinch or falter under their stares. He growled at Kiba, briefly turning his eyes red with a small amount of Saki's chakra. "Kiba, I'll make you pay for what you tried to do to my Haim. If you ever come near her again, I'll kill you." He then turned to face Hinata, who smiled when he mouthed the words, "I love you." The Hokage yelled from his seat, "Ready, fight," as the battle began. In an attempt to quickly defeat Naruto, Sasuke and Kiba both leapt in at the same moment, but he was expecting them to do something similar. He leapt a little into the air, caught them both by the collars of their clothing, and threw them back to where they were with a throw as he finished his flip, landing them in a heap a second before their blows struck home. "Grr. Fight like a man, Dobi," Kiba growled as he lunged in once more, his claws ready to complete the task with a single blow. Kiba was quick, but not quick enough to dodge the shorter blonde's counter. Using Kiba's own momentum, Naruto used a forearm blow to completely dislocate his shoulder after catching the blow at the wrist as it came in. He immediately followed up with a flurry of Muay Thai kicks and punches to remove Kiba from the fight and keep him there, without pausing to admire his skill. His final move was a straight knee thrust to Kiba's face. "Nice. I hadn't even used the flashbangs and stink bombs yet. Good ol' hot-headed and naive Kiba." Sasuke hung back and watched him the entire time, using his Sharingan to mimic his fighting style, but his eyes were having trouble seeing. His eyes ached and his chakra was depleted the more he tried. Naruto had already defeated Kiba and was focusing on him when he finally turned them off. "Damn it, what on earth is going on with my Sharingan? Why wouldn't it imitate his actions?" As he searched hand seals for a fire jutsu, he thought frantically. Kaden. Enden Karyuu. Naruto was prepared for Sasuke with his own sweetened jutsu as soon as he released the jutsu. Situation. Sujin Heki. The arena floor was hidden from view as the watery shield and the enormous gout of fire collided in a burst of steam. After a few tense moments, Naruto's voice could be heard. Fuuton. Daitapa. Sasuke was forced back toward the wall and the steam was expelled with that jutsu, allowing Naruto to breathe. When Sasuke's attempt to use his Sharingan failed, he was met with even more agony and annoyance. A furious, "Dobi, what the hell did you do to my eyes?" screamed the aspiring Avengers. He smiled widely and said to Sakura, "Easy. A good friend of mine is an expert with seals, and she helped me with a seal that would prevent you from copying my moves. Cool, huh?" Sakura smiled back, though she blushed a little. She was happy to assist, viewing it as a kind of atonement for all the terrible things she had said and done to him over the years. She started to see and think differently, more clearly, and was much nicer to people after she got over her crush on Sasuke. Her first real wake-up call came on team placement day, and she was further awakened by the test Kakashi put them through. The arrival of the wave mission and the days that followed their return to Konoha were just what she needed, a one last shove in the right direction. Returning to the battle, Sasuke chose to use his Chidori, his newest and most potent jutsu, instead of his Sharingan. After focusing for a moment, he leveled an insane gaze at his opponent and the lightning chakra wrapped around his hand. "That's it, I'll kill you." He flipped himself at Naruto, screaming in rage. He anticipated that Naruto's taijutsu abilities would remain subpar, but as usual, the cunning blonde had another unpleasant surprise in store for his arrogant opponent. Resuming his Muay Thai position, Naruto waited for Sasuke to thrust his lightning-encased hand at him. Naruto was able to dispel the deadly jutsu by deflecting the Bruiser's angry attack to the outside and chambering a front kick that struck him square in the ribs, cracking at least two of them and throwing him onto his back. Without saying a word, Naruto continued his assault, disorienting his opponent with a soiled forearm shot to his jaw before throwing his entire body into a bone-jarring right hook for extra power, which broke Sasuke's jaw completely and rendered him unconscious. The old Hokage stood with pride in his heart, the winner, Naruto Uzumaki. The crowd was going crazy when they saw Sasuke fall. Everyone who was rooting for Naruto gave a loud cheer, but especially Ino, Sakura, Hinata, the Ichirakus, and the Harunos. "Atta boy Naruto. That's how it's done," proudly exclaimed Takeo Haruno. Haku and Ayame clapped. "I knew you could do it. That's our Otouto.kun," respectively. Naruto, exhausted, walked back into the stands to meet his friends, who greeted him with hugs, handshakes, and back pats. After a hard battle, Tucci even brought him an extra-large bowl of his special ramen to help him regain his energy. Sarutobi and Jiraiya proudly and attentively observed the battle. "I heard that he would use shadow clones to spam the area during a fight, but he didn't even use one against tough opponents. He became a fighting machine with the ability to use his head thanks to Ichigo. Okay, so he's his father's son with a little Kushina thrown in." Kakashi was shaking from rage. Even though he put a lot of effort into the prodigy, the dead last defeated him easily. Naruto accomplished it without the use of overwhelming power or amazing jutsu. To complete the task, he simply employed some shrewd maneuvers and fast thinking. He now had to confront the man who had quickly trained Naruto to this level of proficiency. He couldn't use his Sharingan to defend himself against sealless jutsu after what he witnessed on the bridge in Wave. He would be ripped to pieces by the tall blonde if he enraged Ichigo now. The match's outcome infuriated the Hyuga Council, which claimed Naruto had cheated to win. Sarutobi, however, reminded them that using seals was just another shinobi tool, and Naruto made good use of it, as a good ninja ought to. Elder Hiromi simply gave a knowing smile. From the start, she had faith in the boy, and it was paying off. Hana and Sume approached Naruto's sleeping spot. Although they apologized for what Kiba had done to Hinata, he was still on edge because this was Kiba's mother and older sister, and they might want retribution for what he had done to him. Kiba had no right to do what he did or attempting to force a union between the Hyuga girl and himself. "Please know that I had nothing to do with this. From what I've seen, kiddo, you've got the makings of a great alpha in you. I'll personally give to you my clan's support should you need it. After all, I think I may be talking with a future Hokage," Sume admitted as he thumped him on the back. Hiyashi was greatly impressed by Naruto's willingness to fight for his daughter and his victory over two of the village's strongest heirs. "My boy Naruto, you have earned the right to court Hinata and eventually get married to her. I only ask that you look after her." Sarutobi got up from his seat after 10 minutes had gone by and the two unconscious genin had been taken out of the arena. Sarutobi yelled, "Now, will the next combatants please enter the arena and we will get started." Ichigo made his distinctive appearance as a miniature cyclone of water, seemingly prepared for battle, just as Kakashi and Kaseki descended into the arena for the battle. Although he was wearing the typical Junin vest, his arms were bare except for his forearms, which were braced with teku. In addition, he wore greaves that resembled ankos. He had tattoos on both arms. One bore the ABNU brand, indicating that he had previously been Anbu, and the other bore the number 15 in Roman numerals, adding to his intimidating appearance. After learning about some of Ichigo's abilities, Kaseki was impressed, but he felt that Ichigo depended too much on his abilities and was unaware of the blade strapped to his back that protruded just over his shoulder. He sniffed and dropped into the Juken stance. HMPH. "So, this is my opponent? I'll be done with you quick, as I've better things to do with my day than play with the likes of you." Ichigo watched indifferently until he glanced up at Anko and Hinata in the stands and gave them a gentle smile and nod. Then his grin turned savage, almost malevolent, as he leveled Kaseki with a monstrous ki that almost caused him to lose control of his bladder. Kakashi's anger grew once more as he prepared to exact revenge for his embarrassment. As he prepared for battle, the copy.nin thought, "Sasuke may have lost to this rabble, but I'll show everyone who is superior and that the Hokage made a mistake firing me as a sensei." Sakura and Naruto gazed down at the man who actually taught them, down into the future battleground. "Sensei, you can succeed. Together, they thought, we believe in you." After examining the fighters, Sarutobi concluded that they were prepared. He yelled at the top of his lungs, "Ready! Fight!" as the battle broke out. Without wasting any time, Kaseki closed in on his opponent, hoping to win quickly by striking him in the heart before he could do anything nasty. Ichigo showed that he was no slouch by avoiding the initial blow, allowing Kakashi to enter the battle with a well-known fighting technique. Ichigo snarled angrily as he ducked and blocked the rapid-fire attacks that both of his opponents were launching at him. "Muay Thai? You bastard. You were spying on our training, weren't you? You stole our fighting style, just like you did to Guy. You thieving bastard." Many of the shinobi in the crowd frowned in disapproval of Kakashi's behavior after hearing that statement. Theoretically, he had been taking their labor for years without them realizing it. This particularly infuriated Guy. Since Guy was an only child and had no children of his own, he was passing on the Goken style that had been passed down through the generations in the Maeda family to Lee, who would either carry it on through his own family or in a way of his own choosing. The thieves, as many Sharingan wielders had shown themselves to be, were not supposed to take it. Guy screamed at the top of his lungs, "Show him the power of youth, Ichigo. San. Show him that his eye accounts for nothing in the face of pure heart." Many were taken aback by the encouragement's delivery, but Ichigo understood its significance. In order to quickly knock Kaseki away from him, he conjured up some wind and formed a cage bunshin. "I'll deal with you in a minute, so entertain yourself for a bit." Then he returned his full focus to Kakashi. To get him to try using his Sharingan, Ichigo taunted, "Go ahead. Pull it out, or you'll never beat me. The most you'll do is bore me to death." Kakashi snarled as he displayed his Sharingan eye, but he clutched it in agony. "Remember this when you get to hell, you asked for this." He screamed in agony, "AAHHHHHGGGGGAAA," until he covered it again. After a few seconds of panting, he mustered the strength to speak. He screamed, "WH. What did you do to me?" Ichigo responded with a chilly, mirthless laugh. "You see, if you had bothered to pay attention to Little Cockpuppet's fight before, you'd know that we, Naruto, Sakura and I with the help of a very skilled benefactor, created an anti-Sharingan seal. Whenever you attempt to use your precious eye, the seal makes it short out, causing pain as well as negating its copying and reading abilities. Now, you are just Kakashi Hitaki, a sad excuse for a sensei, a pathetic worm who blamed an innocent boy for something he had not choice in." He growled with rage. All of a sudden, he felt Kaseki pressing down on him and his clone being destroyed. Behaving swiftly, he played Kaseki come chin music by giving him a scathing, upward roundhouse kick to the chin. A tooth was knocked out by the blow, which also sent him flying in a high arc and landing a dozen yards away. He didn't even look away from Kakashi for a moment during all of that. Angrily, Kakashi demanded, "What would you know?" He started charging up a rakery and exclaimed, "That little brat took my sensei and ran away from me. He killed them that night. I will have my revenge. Your power has nothing on me." Then, Ichigo became aware of his actions and made an effort to stop the issue before it started. He quickly landed on top of Kakashi and kicked him hard in the ribs, sending him flying. Ichigo roared, gathering all the wind and water around him and concentrating them into a tight orb in each hand. "I don't think so, Kakashi. If you want to see power, I'll grant you that request." Both the Elder Council and the crowd were in shock. Even the Neodaime was unable to gather water that rapidly and with such force when they were alive. Then he pointed an orb at Kakashi, who was trembling in terror, and Kaseki, who was getting to his feet. As the two orbs broke into innumerable pellets and started mercilessly pelting his two opponents, he only uttered the words, "Break." Kakashi used the Doryuheki and Kaseki threw up a Kaden, but their defenses were quickly torn apart, and they bore the full force of the onslaught that the tall blonde threw at them. He stood tall when the hail of elemental projectiles had passed. "There. I have paid you back, Gurren, a little bit of my debt. Even if it takes me several lifetimes, I promise to work off the remainder. The same to you, Futaba Chan," he thought, grinning slightly as he gazed up at the sky. The audience was still in disbelief over what had just transpired. Reportedly strong shinobi appeared as though they had been fed through a blender, with cuts and gashes all over them, and the renowned Kakashi and one of the Hyuga's best fighters were easily vanquished. Sarutobi got to his feet with a broad smile. The winner, Ichigo Suzumiya. With thunderous applause from the shinobi and a few of the civilians, that announcement appeared to break the hush of the crowd. Hiromi Hyuga was enthusiastically applauding the young man who showed her that her decisions were the right ones. She grinned as she stood in front of her fellow elders. The elderly woman received stunned nods in response to her question. "So, what do you have to say now?" "I thought so. All of this foolishness about marrying of my granddaughter to someone not of her choosing is over and done with as of now. She has made her choice and we have gained a very powerful ally, as you just saw," she concluded by telling the other elders. The Haruno family was unable to speak. They had never witnessed anyone exhibit such unbridled strength under such strict control. Although their initial reaction was to fear him as a monster, they were aware of his true nature as a kind and thoughtful young man who also served as their daughter's sensei. In fact, Sanae experienced an internal surge of paternal pride for him. She said in a whisper, "That's my boy." Proud of her boyfriend's achievement, Enko hurried down into the arena and threw her arms around him. She kissed him deeply after that, and he kissed her back just as passionately, swinging her around once before setting her down and ending the kiss. She cheered until Sakura and Naruto joined them, with the rest of their friends trailing behind them. "I knew you could do it. Only my man could have pulled this off," she said. The shinobi were brought down to the arena, where a small celebration was taking place, by Haku and Kurenai using a shunshin. The Ice Maiden hurried up to give the man who had become her foster father and rescued her from the council's schemes a firm embrace. She expressed her immense pride in him to everyone. When Hinata asked her father if she could join them, he nodded. Like Anko did a few moments ago, she snatched her boyfriend after vaulting down from the VIP seats with his approval. Shuza wanted to throw a small party to congratulate the two fighters on their well-deserved wins, so he led the celebratory crowd to Akamichi's barbecue restaurant. The civilian council was still sitting in the stands, fuming over what had transpired. As they all filed out of the stadium, a rotund man growled, "Let's go. We still have other plans to make that brat suffer." A week following the duel ground for training number 7, there was a huge uproar among the civilians, council, and everyone except their friends after Ichigo and Naruto pulled off the huge upset victory. They demanded that Sasuke and Kakashi be given the victory, arguing that using the anti-Sharingan seals was cheating. Their actions, however, did not amuse Sarutobi, who promptly put an end to their arguments by reminding them that the match was a shinobi affair and that, like Ijutsu, or healing arts, Fuinjutsu was a less practiced shinobi art but highly effective in skilled hands. It didn't matter that Jiraiya of the Sannin chose to work with him to create the seal. When the two Sandaime teammates insisted that he accept Sasuke as a student and allow the Uchiha to sign the Toad contract, he threw this fact in the face of their demands. As a Sannin, he was entitled to train whoever he wanted. Jiraiya called upon the powerful Gamabunta, the boss of the Toads, to assess Sasuke's suitability as a summoner, as was his right, in order to amuse the two irate elders. Bunta looked directly into Sasuke's eyes, looking into his soul. Bunta jerked away all of a sudden, frowning. As the enormous toad roared in rage, Sasuke stood arrogantly through it all. "Why, you little brat? How dare you try to cast a genjutsu on me? I should crush you where you stand, you little parasite." Like a pampered child being told what they cannot have or do, the haughty boy yelled, "You will do as I say. Don't you know who I am? I am Uchiha and you are only a mere servant." Jiraiya put his hand around his throat after he made that remark. The white-haired Sannin growled as he vanished in a cloud of smoke, and Gamabunta followed suit. "Summons are not slaves, you ignorant boy. They have a will of their own, and if you betray them, they will kill you without a second thought. Bunta here went toe-to-toe with the Kyuubi, so there's no chance that you could possibly force him to serve you. Now, leave my sight and don't come back. Then, on the grounds that he was not receiving the proper care and instruction, Sasuke was removed from Team 7 and turned over to Kakashi Hitaki for what they considered to be a proper education. When Danzo and the two elders arrived to take Sasuke from him, Ichigo simply shrugged. If he resisted, they threatened to remove his rank, persecute Anko, and punish his team, but he just laughed at their baseless threats. First of all, I have been training everyone equally and fairly. No one student is above the rest in a team. You should know better than that. Another thing, don't you ever threaten Anko or my students when you know damn well that they haven't done anything wrong. Sakura and Naruto provided their own testimonies to support him. Ichigo Sensei has been very fair to us in the short time that he's been our sensei. He's treated us all equally and fairly. Kakashi never taught Naruto or myself anything, but Ichigo Sensei would always answer our questions and be honest with us and make time for us. He also shows up on time, unlike Hitaki. Sakura was related to them, spewing out Kakashi's an awful poison. Since he was the one who had originally proposed Kakashi as Team 7's sensei, Danzo took it personally and swung his cane at the girl. However, a furious blonde sensei intervened, yanking the cane out of his grasp and snapping it in two like a pencil. With a murderously composed voice supported by the most terrifying ki the three of them had ever experienced in their lives aside from the Kyuubi, he told them, "You've done enough for one day, don't you think? You have what you want, now leave. I will not repeat myself. If you ever raise a hand to my students again, I'll remove the offending hand." They quickly left that area without turning around, their tails securely tucked between their legs. Hokage's office. Ichigo and the team went to talk to the Hokage about their options after he sighed that they would require a third teammate to take the Chunin exams. The Hokage waved them into his office, where they discovered Team 8, except for Kiba, waiting for something. With a hug, Naruto said, "Hey there, Haim." She returned the hug and kissed him on the cheek before saying, "Hello, Naru-kun." These days, with Hinata's confidence at an all-time high, the two expressed their feelings so freely and publicly. She stopped second, guessing herself and stammering. Kurenai was happy with the girl's changes, but even happier that her more charming qualities remained unchanged. When Sakura questioned her about Kiba's absence, Team 8 members grinned. Sakura-san, Kiba's tenure with Team 8 came to an abrupt end after the duel. His mother felt that Kiba had done enough harm, as well as proving that he wasn't worthy of being a shinobi yet, so she had him sent back to the academy to repeat the entire process over again. We'll be about 18 before he has the opportunity to graduate again, and by then, we'll all be at least Chunin if not Junin. Hinata told them with a broad grin. The rest was explained by Shino. We are here to meet our new teammate, since we cannot take the Chunin exams without a full team. A genin from the previous year will fill Inuzuka's slot on our team. We heard that she was on a genin team that was decommissioned due to a teammate and the sensei having a breakdown, he informed them. Wow. That's what we were here to ask about, since the emo prince will be under Kakashi. Teme. We need a third teammate, too, Naruto said. Then Sarutobi pressed his office intercom button and said, "Ah, that's good then. The other member of the now-defunct Team 13 needed a team, too. Ayumi-san, could you send in the Tenshin sisters, please?" He inquired. A pair of kunoichi about their age were visible when the office door opened after his secretary gave her confirmation. The first one wore white gi, black bike shorts, the traditional shinobi sandals, and long chestnut colored hair pulled back in a ponytail. The eyes were soft brown. The second wore sort of deep blue dress with thigh highs, shinobi sandals, and hot pants underneath. She had scarlet eyes and powder blue hair in a bob cut. Like Hinata, both wore their headbands around their necks. Everyone was perplexed when Hinata's palm and face met as soon as she saw them. Shino muttered, "Do you know them, Hinata?" "Yeah. You can say that. The Tenshin clan has been close rivals of my clan since anyone can remember. I've known those two since I was a little girl, and the non-stop challenges have really gotten on my nerves. They're both the clan princesses from what I know. As if that, Ryu-sama, of theirs bad wasn't enough." Hinata grumbled with annoyance. Sakura exclaimed, "Ryu-sama? Who the hell is that?" "Ryu Hayabusa. Junin, close friend of the current head of the Tenshin clan, Hayate Ein Tenshin, and all around heartthrob supposedly. His legion of fangirls rivals the Uchihas at its height, and he's petitioned my clan for a bride for some time now. I've met him before, as I was one of the Hyuga maidens considered for the arrangement before my father shot the whole thing down, but he's got next to no personality and makes Shino look as talkative as Ino is. They say that he's the best shinobi in the village, but I think Ichigo Sensei has him beat hands down. The Hyuga girl clarified. She never really liked the stoic, quiet, and cool type. She wanted her partner to be energetic, essentially like Naruto, the boy she currently dates. Ayane smirked as he strolled up to the girl, who sighed resignedly, and said, Hinata-chan, it's been a while. Teeth clenched, Hinata said, hello, Ayane-chan, Kasumi-chan. Ah, Kasumi and Ayane. Good, I would like you to meet your new teammates. Ayane, you will be on Team 7 with Naruto Uzumaki and Sakura Haruno. Your new sensei will be Ichigo Suzumiya. Kasumi, you will be on Team 8 with Hinata Hyuga and Shino Aburame. Your sensei is Kurenai Yuhi, he stated to the two girls. Ayane looked at her Kunoichi teammate and said dismissively, what's up with the orange, and WHO has pink hair, for Kami's sake. She jerked a thumb toward Sakura and asked, what's with the huge forehead? Before Sakura tried to launch herself at the girl with the scarlet eyes with the intention of dismembering and maiming her, the veins in her face, neck, and forehead tripled in size, if one looked closely enough. Sakura yelled, "Let me at her," as Ichigo grabbed her by the dress collar. He attempted to reason with the girl with the pink hair, saying, "Easy there, Sakura-chan. Let's try to give this one a chance." Hinata herself was growing increasingly irate. After what he did to the Uchiha and that jerk Kiba, who does she think she is to call my Naruto-kun dead last? Kurenai noticed the red flags her pupil was displaying. Oh no, she's going to blow. One similarity between her and Anko is that they will probably eat you alive if you mess with their men in any way. Although Naruto was already growing irritated with this new girl, he was a little concerned about the deathly expression Hinata was giving her. From the vibes the pale-eyed girl was giving off, he could tell that even Sake was trembling in her cage. At her sister's antics, Kasumi snorted. "At least try to get along with your new team, shorty. Beat it, Miss Goody Two Shoes. At least your teammates look like they know what they're doing. Even the sensei for this team looks like a moron." Ayane retorted, and the two started snarling and insulting one another, leaving Ichigo to frown at the notion that his competence was being questioned. Anko felt the impulse to choke a girl with powder blue hair down in the T&I rooms. Midget, Amazon, tomboy, princess. Hooters girl, flat chest. Hey, just because my boobs haven't grown yet. The two half-sisters engaged in a verbal tug-of-war until Naruto cleared his throat to attract their attention, and Sarutobi rubbed his temples to try to prevent the possible headache. "Now, I want your teams to get acquainted, so I'll assign a D-rank mission to both of them to do just that." Ayane watched in awe as her new sensei handled the situation and with some guilt at how badly her new teammate was treated, and she looked over to see Sakura patting Naruto's shoulder in a comforting way. For the remainder of that day, the Bluenet always tried to get in a barb or two with her new teammates, whose patience was wearing thin. Their job was a simple one, having to work in a restaurant to fill in for some of the staff that called in sick, and they each spread out into their jobs, with the girls serving as waitresses and Naruto being relegated to the back as a dishwasher because the establishment's owner didn't want him there at all. "Hey, what gives? What caused that guy to lose it over him?" Ayane inquired. "I can't tell you that," Sakura said with a sorrowful shake of her head. "Only the Sandame or Naruto can do so without facing consequences. All I can say is that." As she bussed tables, the girl pondered for a while, worried by the glares Naruto received. What in the world is going on here? Why is Naruto hated by so many people? What could he have done to deserve that? Do Sama and Sama know about this? She asked herself. I only hope that when she finds out, she'll take it as well as the others did. Otherwise we'll need a new teammate, again. Ichigo was observing the new girl with a critical eye, calculating how she would adapt to his only surviving descendant. The restaurant owner's outburst almost spilled Naruto's secret into the street, but he knew that Ayane would get curious soon enough. It was early afternoon when they finished, and they still had some time to kill. "All right, gang," he instructed them to follow him to their regular training grounds, saying, "Let's go out to the training fields for a little taijutsu practice before we break for the day and so we can see what kind of moves Ayane here has." As he turned to speak to his students, they arrived at their usual training grounds in a matter of minutes. "All right, the goal here is to assess your general abilities so that we can develop some teamwork based on everyone's abilities. You will all face me simultaneously in order to achieve both of those goals and foster some teamwork. To win, use whatever means necessary, but make an effort to cooperate. Are you ready?" Sakura and Naruto turned pale as he leveled a hand directly at them in warning. Leave! They scrambled away as he yelled and blasted them with water. What on earth was that? Ayane shouted. Sensei has a strange talent that allows him to use the wind and water around him as weapons without the need for hand seals or even jutsus. He once used his abilities to eliminate more than 100 enemies in a single blow, but he usually holds back from us to keep us out of the hospital. We have to dodge like crazy at the end of every sparring match. Creating a set of cage bunshin to divert his attention, Naruto yelled. Ichigo blasted the clones, but Naruto was right behind them and used his Muay Thai training to throw knees and elbows left and right. Ichigo decided to give them a fair shake and only used taijutsu. Sakura and Ayane entered the fray, with Sakura using Baguazhang, a martial art that Ichigo had recently taught her. She was still working out the kinks in her movements, but for the time being it was useful in sparring matches. He did tell her that the art seemed to fit her, as she absorbed the moves like a sponge. The three genin were now trying to take advantage of their sensei, who had appeared to stop shooting elemental projectiles and hooted joyfully whenever he avoided a blow or mockingly blew a raspberry at them. As the exercise went on, Team 7's newest member remarked absently, "Oh well, at least he's having fun." Their sadistic sensei finally ended the spar after an additional hour had passed. Alright, kids. The day's show is over. As for Sakura and Naruto, I'm proud to see that you two haven't been slacking in your exercises and have shown flexibility in working with an unknown and untested teammate. Ayane-chan, I was thrilled to see that you could work with your new teammates so effectively. I'll register you all for the Chunin exams if you all maintain this speed. Ayane was impressed by his teaching style, which was very different from her previous sensei's approach of yelling and stomping whenever something went wrong. He told them with joy. In reality, he was already planning to enter them in the exams, but he wanted to give them some incentive to work harder. He sat and talked with his students while they were sleeping, answering their questions as best he could. I think I'll like this team. He reminds me of my brother in a way, trustworthy and true, but also very lighthearted and patient. Ichigo left the three genin to their own devices after debriefing them and saying goodbye in his usual way. Well, I'd better get home now. I said I would assist my dad tonight with the inventory. As she hurried back to the actual village, Sakura gave one of her two closest friends a chaste hug and said, "See you tomorrow, Naruto." Naruto and Ayane were left alone at the training grounds as a result. Well, I suppose I'll go to Ichiraku's before returning home. He whistled a lively tune as he headed home, calling out to no one in particular. Haku.ne is working late tonight, and Sensei is going to be with Anko, Nichan tonight. Wait, he was called to by Ayane. Well, what is going on? His tone was one of genuine curiosity as he asked. Well, would it be okay if I walked a portion of the way with you? She questioned him. Yes. Hurry up. As they headed into the actual village, he greeted her. During their conversation, Ayane began by asking him about his recent activities and giving him a brief overview of his interests, dislikes, aspirations, and goals. As she told him about herself and her family during their brief walk, she thought, so, he wants to become Hokage, huh? We'll see. After a few minutes, their paths parted, with Naruto going to Ichiraku's and Ayane's for their homes. Well, I'll see you tomorrow, Naruto-san, she said as he reciprocated. Alright. See you. One thing, though, Naruto alone. San is too formal and stuffy, in my opinion. I am simply Naruto. Ayane-chan, see you. As he drove off in the direction of Ichiraku Ramen, his favorite hangout, he called out to her. A tiny smile appeared on Ayane's lips as she stood there observing his retreating form. Ayane-chan, huh? Playfully, she told herself as she headed home. Clan compound Tenshin Iroha, the crazy eldest sibling of Kasumi and Ayane, had witnessed the match Ichigo was in and, like her two baby sisters, she went out and got what she wanted, no matter what. The haughty, auburn-haired 24-year-old woman was very reserved when it came to the men she considered to be prime marriage material, but something about the enigmatic Junin sensei piqued her interest, especially after Ayane told her that he was her new sensei and described his personality. Indeed, he is a somewhat fascinating individual. At first, I thought he was a complete idiot, but he's actually quite kind. My new teammates and I attempted to take him on at once, but he was only playing with us because he is so strong and quick. I observed him using wind and water jutsu without any hand seals. It seems as though he simply manipulated them. It was incredible how he created a tornado roaring around himself as a shield without even twitching a muscle. Aya-chan, what else about him? Eagerly, Iroha inquired. Well, that's about all I know about him. Iroha was left to her thoughts as she got up to get ready for dinner and said, I've only known him for a day. Ryu, this man seems more intriguing than that ice cube. That's what I suppose happens when you teach a group of brats. Without even exerting himself, he slapped Hyuga and that conceited pervert Hitaki around as if they owed him money. She thought to herself, I want this one, but she also thought of the woman he had kissed that day. HMPH. I'm better than that snake tramp. Aside from Tsunade, I'm one of the wealthiest and sexiest people in the village, and I have some of the biggest breasts. I'll have that delicious blonde hair. The auburn-haired woman giggled, then laughed almost uncontrollably as she started to devise schemes and plans to trap her target. We'll hear wedding bells soon. As he was walking by, Hayate sent up a brief prayer for whoever this time caught his twin sister's attention. That insane woman. As he made his way to the dining room, he muttered, now I know where the girls get it from. Since their parents were dead, Ayane and Kasumi had no other older female to rely on but Iroha, and they started to notice some of her habits. The woman had a lot of callers over the years, but she turned them all down while she waited for the perfect guy to come along. As he walked to the dining hall to ask both of his sisters about their days, Hayate set these thoughts aside for the time being. Hayate proposed to his younger siblings after the small clan had assembled for dinner and started to eat. So, ladies, how was your day? He questioned them. Well, Hokage. Sama placed us on new teams today after our previous team was disbanded, Oni. Sama. Aya. Chan is now on Team 7, and I was placed on Team 8, Kasumi replied. Really? He guessed, that team has the Uchiha and Hitaki. Who is that? I replaced that Uchiha kid as my new sensei, and his name is Ichigo Suzumiya. Sakura Haruno and Naruto Uzumaki are my new teammates, Ayane clarified. Haruno? Not a clue, but Uzumaki? Where have I heard that name before? Iroha asked, attempting to place the names she had heard. Hayate's forehead furrowed in contemplation, as he was aware of two members of that specific team. Naruto Uzumaki, the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. He recalled the night the Kyuubi attacked the village and killed a large number of people, including his parents and the majority of the Tenshin clan, in its rampage. After the devastation subsided, the Sandaime returned from retirement and declared that Naruto was nothing more than the demon's container and jailer, but that the public, as well as his best friend Ryu Hayabusa, saw the demon that almost destroyed their village and killed so many of their loved ones. Hayate tried to steel himself to do what he had set out to do, but his conscience stayed his hand. He slammed the kunai into the ground in rage and frustration, yelling aloud, because he simply couldn't bring himself to harm an innocent child, just like his own two baby sisters. He and Ryu sneaked into the nursery with kunai in hand, intent on killing the demon for good, when they peered into the small bassinet and saw innocent, crystal blue eyes peering at them with curiosity instead of the bloody, burning eyes or face of a demon. The Sandaime Hokage himself appeared in a corner of the room shortly after the near breakdown, explaining to the two boys how the seal works and what a Jinchuriki actually is. Needless to say, the two boys felt like scum for the unforgivable sin they almost committed and left in shame. Over the years, Hayate tried to stay neutral in any and all disputes that took place over the boy's fate, while Ryu simply avoided the boy completely because he was too ashamed of himself to even look at him. Despite this behavior, the boy was attacked when they could have helped him. The next one was Ichigo Suzumiya, the sensei of the boy in question. The tall Junin appeared as if out of thin air, and nobody knew anything about him or even his origins. Only the Hokage seemed to know, as he personally endorsed him. The Hokage had confirmed the man's qualifications, so that was beyond doubt in his eyes, given that he was the village leader and that, in light of the outcome of the match the previous week, he faced two opponents who were close to S rank at the same time and dispatched them with unsettling ease. Subsequently, the striking resemblance between Suzumiya and the Uzumaki boy led one to conclude that they were directly related based on their basic appearance and personalities. What was even more unsettling was the tall blonde's amazing resemblance to the Yondaime, which allowed him to see that young Naruto was starting to resemble the renowned Hokage as well. However, he was unable to look into these incidents further without any evidence. Concerned, Ayane and Kasumi gazed at his Oni. Sama, how are you? Kasumi inquired. He must have known something, because Hayate jolted out of his reverie and turned to face Ayane. Ayane, have you noticed anything strange, in regards to how the people of the village treat the Uzumaki boy? He inquired carefully. Well, Ayane started to explain, thinking it was an odd question until she recalled that she wanted to know why they were so antagonistic toward her new teammate. As they headed to the location of their D-rank mission, she informed Hayate about the nasty glares and threats that were muttered in Naruto's direction, along with some barely concealed ki that was being directed at the boy. The restaurant owner became enraged at the sight of Naruto, yelling obscenities and curses, but he was about to say something else before their sensei intervened. She saw that he was very depressed, but more than that, he was afraid of something, and she could see the fear in his eyes. What could be so awful about him that the villagers would despise him so much? Once I gave him a chance. He's actually really nice and fun to talk to, she said. Under penalty of death, Ayane, I am not allowed to tell you anything about his secret. Only Hokage Sama and Naruto himself are capable of doing so in this village. I can only advise you to wait for him to let you know when he's ready. It sounds like his sensei and another teammate are already aware of it. He might tell you if he starts to trust you as much as he trusts them. All I can advise is to keep in mind that he had no control over his fate when the time comes, Hayate said gravely to her. He was always serious, but this time it was different. Both girls nodded, and they ate dinner, and Iroha confronted her brother as they left the dining room. Hayate, if the girls are going to work with the boy, they should be told the truth. Jinchuriki posed a threat. She gave a hiss. No, said Hayate, shaking his head. Only Naruto has the right to reveal this secret. He fears that Ayane will also despise him if he tells her. He would rather suffer in silence than run the risk of being despised by his teammate for who he is. When he's ready, he'll let her know, he thought. Iroha sighed. I hope you know what you're doing. In the meantime, the two younger Kunoichi were cleaning up before going to bed in the clan estate's bathhouse, and the two sisters were lounging in the tub when Hayate said, Aya-chan, just how is Naruto-san? How does he seem? Kasumi asked the girl with the bob hair. I want to hear your opinion on him, but Hina-chan told me a lot about him. As she reflected on earlier that day, Ayane leaned back against the tub's edge and said, well, at first I thought he was an idiot just like his famous moniker, the dead last. Noisy, harsh, unclean, uncivilized, and immature. None of these, though, seemed to match what I personally observed. He was intelligent and vivacious, enjoyed laughing and smiling, and enjoyed whatever he was doing. He listened carefully to everything I said and occasionally offered his own opinions when we spoke. He was strong and very talented, but he wasn't conceited or domineering. He made me feel welcome and listened to my opinions despite the fact that I was the team's new member. She trailed off, blushing a little. Kasumi didn't miss the blush. Oh, Aya-chan has a crush on him, she thought slyly before stepping forward. The Kunoichi with auburn hair suggested, he does sound like a nice guy. Maybe someone's planning on staking her claim. Ayane smiled at her sister. With a light-hearted tone, she answered, maybe. You'll just have to wait and see, won't you? Until they made the decision to turn in for the night, they spent the remainder of the bath discussing nothing but general topics like training and boys. The blonde boy who recently became her new teammate was the only thing on the bob-haired girl's mind before she went to bed. I'm interested in learning more about you, Naruto-kun. Dango Kurobeko stand going back a little to earlier that night. The aforementioned Kunoichi and Ichigo got together for dinner and drinks at a little dango stand on T Street that Enko often visited. And breakfast, too, if I'm lucky. Enko laughed slyly to herself. Ichigo took a swig from his sake cup and asked his partner, so, Enko. What's been going on with you today? With a sigh, Enko began to tell him about her day. Flashback. Enko was feeling pretty good when he woke up that morning. Since she started dating Ichigo, she had improved her living habits significantly. She made some rice and tea with some miso soup for breakfast, so she actually ate something other than dango. After finishing her breakfast, she embarked on yet another rewarding day of torturing and breaking the law, something she genuinely loved to do. She ran into her beau while he was leading his team to the training grounds as she was making her way down the village's main street to the T&I offices, which are housed within the Anbu headquarters. A tiny smile crept onto her face as she gave herself permission to pause and consider how fortunate she was to have found someone who accepted her for who she truly was. On her way to work, she was about to continue when she noticed a strangely familiar person following her boyfriend. Enko took a step closer to find out who this woman believed she was stalking when she slunk like a snake right behind her victim. The snake mistress said in a chilly, collected, and poisonous voice, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" With a start, the young lady turned around and showed herself to be Hana Inuzuka. Inuzuka. Just great. It's not enough that scumbag Uchiha or that rapist scum of a little brother of yours caused trouble. Now you have to start by trying to horn in on my man. Hana responded by snarling back. Don't you ever compare me to those two lowlifes. I have a hard enough time dealing with the fallout from the shame that Lil Shit Kiba brought on to our clan, and I don't need you adding to that. Besides, he's a man. If I can defeat you, I can have the chance to make him my mate. Yes, he's a man, but he's my man. I saw him first and he's the only man to treat me with any respect since that bastard X. Sensei of mine ditched me with the blame from what he did. He loves me for who I really am and I don't have to hide anymore because of him. I won't let anyone take him from me. Anko screamed back, her rage growing as she spoke. He's the only guy to have ever made my mother back down. Every other guy that I've brought to meet my mother, she's scared off. The rest are all spineless, but he's the only one to have survived an argument with her. The way my mother handles things, I'm gonna be an old maid. Hannah responded by arguing back. The young dog mistress was not particularly interested in the idea of becoming an old maid. Anko quickly bound Hannah with her snakes and retorted, "That's all a real nice story, but now let's skip to the part where this is my problem." Anko growled as she walked away, her snakes trailing behind her. "Now you listen to me. I will not have some hussy from a clan or otherwise thinking she can just muscle in on the best thing that ever happened to me. I won't bother repeating myself next time." End of flashback. Ichigo shook his head and sighed. Geez. What's wrong with some people? They just can't take no for an answer, can they? Anko mimicked his movements with her own before taking a strong pull from her sake bottle. Ain't it the truth? No matter, I still got you. She laughed. Other than Kurenai, he was the only person she could let her hair down around without feeling guilty. With a broad smile, Ichigo put his arm around her waist and said, "Damn right, you do." After finishing their meal and drinks, the two headed out into the night, headed for Anko's apartment, where she didn't really expect to sleep much tonight. I believe it's time to move forward. This is going to be so much fun tonight, Anko thought slyly.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.